Welcome to the Balls Talk Sports NFL podcast. I am Elson Gratz,
I'm Victor Ratliff.
and today we are bringing you our first episode of Summer Scouting, our way too early top 10 quarterbacks in the 2027 NFL Draft, not based on touchdown interception ratio, not based on win-loss record, based on the tape, which we have watched a lot of. Victor, this episode has been a long time in the making. How are we doing today?
We're doing great. This is probably the most tape I've watched to prepare for a quarterback episode, even including the quarterback episode we did over the real draft. Because summer, there are a lot more guys that could be good. Not, and then you get to the NFL draft, and then you realize half of them suck, so they're not worth watching. Um, so there's a lot of things we're going to talk about today. A lot of guys. This is a very dense class. A lot of things we're going to get into. It's going to be very exciting. We have a guest planned for a little bit later in the show, the first ever guest on the program. So that'll be very exciting. How are you doing today, Elson?
I'm feeling pretty good. I am staying at a hotel, as you can maybe see by the backdrop. So, getting away from the pipe that blew up at my house, which prevented us from recording this a couple of days earlier. But now we are here, and now I am ready to get kinky. Victor, what about you?
Let's get kinky.
Okay,
All right.
so the format of this episode, we're doing our top 10s, but we both watched more than 10 guys each. So, we will do our honorable mentions, then 10 to 7, 6 to 4, 3 to 1. To start things off with the honorable mentions, I think we have one guy that both of us watched that just wasn't quite gonna crack our top 10, and I think we're gonna get a third opinion on him as well. And with that, I am referring to John Mateer, the quarterback out of Oklahoma. Victor, my understanding is you watched him.
I,
What did you
I
see there?
did. I've watched a lot of John Mateer before. And before we get into our takes on him, I've got a very special guest coming into the program. Our friend, my roommate, not a friend of the program, though, because this guy is not subscribed to the channel. Okay, so make sure to boo him in the comment section for that. Avid Oklahoma fan, Jack Ring. Welcome to the program, Jack. We got you up here.
Hey guys, how you doing?
All right, so you are a big OU fan, as I know. I mean, we watched a lot of OU games together this past
Unfortunately.
season. Yeah, and a lot of things were thrown at the screen, a lot of names were called, a lot of words were said that
Out of
hopefully will be repeated on this episode so that we can get views. Um, so we're here to just ask you, as a fellow ball knower, a guy who grinds the tape, watches all this stuff with us. What do you think of
right.
John Mateer, your
Absolutely.
quarterback?
Complete and utter despair. If I had to sum it up in a brief
Uh-huh.
sentence, starting off the season last year, I was very pleasantly surprised because he was coming in with John Arbuckle, his guy, and he started off strong. He propelled himself into the Heisman, the way too early Heisman
That's true.
predictions, and then he got his hand broken, and I was like, okay, whatever. Not really. I was kind of upset. I was really upset. And then he came back like 2 weeks after getting surgery against Texas, and then he laid an absolute egg.
Oh, we
I
remember
mean,
that
he
game
laid
well.
an egg the rest of the season. I do.
I
Yeah,
mean, I think
it's
by
terrible.
the third pass, you were saying start Michael Hawkins, start Michael Hawkins.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then you're like, no, no, it's fine. Let him cook. And then he cooked all right. But he cooked for the opposite team.
Yeah, he definitely cooked Sooners fans' hopes.
Oh my lord. I feel bad because Bo Bentley, he's an incoming quarterback for OU. He's going to be a freshman next year, and I feel bad for him because it's going to be exactly like Spencer Rattler. You
Yeah,
he's going to be thrown into the deep end in the middle of a season, a tough season because SEC, and he's because not Michael Hawkins, he's gone. Good for him. Glad he's gone. Because John Mateer is not going to be able to make ends meet. And we're going to drop him halfway through the season. We're going to put Bo Bentley up. And then he's going to lay an egg because he's younger than I am. And he's having to start for a quality, well, sometimes quality SEC team.
yeah, quality is stretching it offensively at least. Um, so you think Mateer's going to get benched through the season? You think it's going to be a Garrett Nussmeier situation where he plays and he's just bad due to injury or him just being generally incompetent at the position, you think he's going to get benched?
I hope he gets benched because the alternative is that he doesn't get benched and then he plays the way he does through the entire season. And instead of, and we can't do anything with that.
No, we can't.
OU cannot function with a quarterback like John Mateer. He has great hair. I'll give it to him. He has great hair.
That is true.
But
His hair
he
is tremendous. I'm going to put a picture right now. It looks very good.
Yeah, very good. His hair is top notch. If that were what quarterbacks, he'd be right up there with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and that guy from Notre Dame, Sam Hartman, he'd be the best quarterback in the league.
That's right.
So
but unfortunately, that is not what. Oh, go ahead.
No, okay. So I'm going to give you. I'm going to read off the schedule of OU next year. I'm going to tell you when do you think.
Oh boy.
How do you think he's going to perform? When do you think he gets benched? Right, if you're the GM, versus game 1 versus UTEP, probably survives that game, right?
Then.
He gets benched then.
Yeah.
Well,
if I were the
Titletown
if I were the GM, I would have sent him to the draft years ago.
Yeah, you can't come back and play. You have to declare for the draft. That's what you would have done. All right.
Yeah.
So you don't think is there any hope for a hopeful OU fan like me that Mateer improves and gets better and leads this team to a reasonable title hopes contenders? Because there's talks about that. The defense is obviously still very good. Coaching situation looks good.
Right.
John Arbuckle, Garfield's father, he's the offensive coordinator apparently, and
it's not John Arbuckle, is it?
It's Ben Arbuckle as the offensive coordinator. There's a lot of hope. Offensive line's hopeful better. So you don't think John Mateer is going to get better? Do you see a development track there?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm when it comes to OU, I'm naturally a pessimist because ever since Lincoln Riley, I've gotten my hopes up time and time again, and it just gets smashed into the ground. So it is my natural tendency to say we're going to go 0-12 this year. But maybe. Because John Mateer, at the beginning of the season last year, he performed. And I'll admit, the way he performed was better than it was after he came back from injury. But I do think that the way he performed just when it came to being a quarterback, knowing when to make certain kinds of throws, that didn't change. What I saw last year, he can only zip the ball. He cannot loft it into a receiver's arms. He sends rockets. And sure, that's great. Send rockets. But if you're sending rockets every single time you throw the ball and you're a quarterback, then that you're just asking to be picked off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his touch is just – I mean, it's non-existent. It got an F from me. It's legitimately that bad. He just doesn't – he has one speed on the arm, and it's pretty bad, and he puts himself into a lot of positions. And obviously, there are a lot of times last year where that got him in trouble, where he thinks he can make throws. I mean, I'm sure you remember this, the playoff game, where he just, for some reason, throws it right to the defender, and then he takes it to the house for a pick six. You remember that play?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just I don't know what he's thinking there. He thinks that he's like Josh Allen, and then he attempts throws that not even Josh Allen can make. It's very upsetting to watch.
No, it is.
Jack, could you share your live reaction to that play as you watched it happen? Like, put us in that moment. What were you saying?
How much should I censor it?
Where this is not a kid-friendly show.
Go at it. All right. I fucking told you, you son of a bitch. John Arbuckle. No, I'm kidding. Ben Arbuckle, It was, at that point, I was just sort of numb.
It's fair.
I didn't have much feeling by the end of the season because I fully expected Alabama to cook us, and cook us they did.
Yeah, there was a lot of colorful language in the Red River game, which I'll admit, I tried to get your hopes up a lot for. Yeah, I tried to get your hopes up a lot for that, and I was wrong.
It pissed me off.
Yeah,
you're like, hey, game's not over. Game's not over.
I'm the eternal optimist.
I was like, shut up.
When it comes to my teams, I'm kind of an eternal optimist. OU, TU, Denver. I like to believe that we can do it. And John Mateer, I believed in him, but he's not that good. And I think there's a world where he gets better. So I think let's move into our scouting reports. That was a great scouting report, Jack. Thank you so much. Much
I put a lot
appreciate
of
you.
time and effort into that. Yeah, of course. Thank
Very
you guys
much
for having me.
appreciate you for coming on the program. Now I gotta ask you though, as now the first
Okay.
ever guest of Balls Talk Sports, will you be subscribing to the channel?
On YouTube,
Yeah.
because I am subscribing on Spotify.
Well, that's useless to us. I haven't posted Spotify in like 9 months.
Okay. You know what? Due to such a great honor being bestowed upon me, I will return the favor and follow you guys on YouTube.
Thank you so much, man. We
Or subscribe.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Another
welcome.
member of the BTS army you have been inducted into. Yeah, let's give a round of applause in the chat for Jack Ranks coming on, first guest host in this program. We very much appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jack. Have a great night, and we appreciate your
Thank
thoughts
you
on John
guys.
Mateer.
You as well.
All right.
What Jack meant to say, John Mateer, before the broken hand, he was playing all right. After the broken hand, everything went to shit. It really compounded because of his already fucking horrendous mechanics. The guide arm just flies open, out of control. There's no sync with his actual throwing arm. His base is ridiculous. He's tiptoeing around like a ballerina, but without any of the grace of a ballerina. His follow through is just pulling all the way down to the ground and trying to throw himself over, but he's fading away sometimes as well. He's a side armor, so you got batted passes. And you mentioned that he thinks he's Josh Allen. Victor, the arm arrogance, it is completely insane. So many lurking interceptions over the middle of the field. He throws everything as fucking hard as possible. It's like, buddy, your receivers have hands. Don't you respect their hands? Don't you want them to be able to do things like write their own name? John Mateer says, no, fuck you. I'm throwing it right through your fingers, buddy. Hell, I hope it goes through your chest, too. And his eyes are terrible, so he's staring guys down, no anticipation. It's kind of like Justin Fields. He has to see a guy with like 10 yards of separation to feel comfortable throwing the ball there. But a defender works too. So like a defender with 10 yards of separation, he's throwing it right to him.
Oh yeah. To be clear, we are normally a very positive podcast, especially during summer scouting. But John Mateer is a special case, so I'm sorry, John. If you're an Oklahoma fan and you want a bit of hope, tough luck. No, but I think you said it very well. He's got a great arm. It's not Josh Allen level, but it is very good. He can rip it, like Jack said. I mean, he's got a lot of juice on there, but it doesn't come with any touch. And he struggles once it gets past 30, 40 yards. So a lot of those deep balls, while they are impressively fast, like you said, his release is so abysmal. His mechanics are just non-existent, where he's just ripping that ball at an unbelievably stupid level. I just don't understand it. So it doesn't really help when you have a great arm if the ball is just 20 yards ahead of your receiver. Like what good does that do anybody? Um, as far as like actual the mental side of things, he's just not really up to SEC ball yet, and maybe he never will be. Maybe he will be. Maybe he gets better, but especially last season, it just seemed to get worse as they continue to play better teams and then into the playoffs. He's just not really seeing these lurking defenders. Rotations just were non-existent. He read the defense out like it was the shell that they showed him. I mean, I cannot count the amount of turnover-worthy plays that he threw, just not even realizing that they shifted from quarters to cover three because he's just not anticipating that lurking safety come down, and then the hitch is just not it's closed, and he still rips it like it's there. His incredibly antsy in the pocket, and when he escapes the pocket, he's horrible on the run. Is very inaccurate at all levels of the field. Like he said, stares down everybody, really not progressing at all well. I like to think that there's a world where he ends up playing well, and I do think there is a world where he ends up playing well next year. But as an NFL quarterback, I struggle to see him ever getting enough polish, especially in the mental side of the game, and his complete lack of pocket presence and ability under pressure is just a thing that I don't think is ever going to go away. I'd be surprised if Mateer is ever a starting quarterback. I think his rushing ability does give him a solid floor if he can somewhat improve his mental side as a QB2, a rushing utility guy, somewhat similar to Cole Payton from this past draft. If he can do that sort of thing and calm himself down in the pocket just a little bit, there's something there. But otherwise, I don't know. I just watched him because he was the OU quarterback, and I wanted to, I guess, hate myself even more.
My earlier scouting report, I want to clarify, was Jack speaking vicariously through me. I actually do have a
Obsessed you.
draftable grade on John
Really?
Mateer. I have a late day 3 grade on him just because he was, like, fine playing for Oklahoma before the hand injury. I went back, watched some of his Washington State tape. His accuracy was a whole hell of a lot better. I
Oh
would
yeah.
say it was, like, 45th percentile, whereas after he was hurt, it was genuinely unplayable, like, probably the worst quarterback accuracy tape that I've ever watched. So, yeah, I do think there's a chance that he rebounds and gets back to where he was because if this is the player he was at Washington State, he probably wouldn't have been starting at Washington State. We know that a better version of John Mateer exists. Maybe I'm just a sucker because I love watching his arm angle. Like, I think this guy is a former high school shortstop, I want to say, and he has genuinely generational arm angle flexibility.
Agreed.
Can throw from any slot. He can go all the way around the clock. Do I think he's going to turn into anything? No, but this is summer scouting, and quarterbacks with his physical traits always have a chance. So, hence the late day 3 draftable grade on John Mateer, my number 14 quarterback out of 15.
That's fair, and I do right this. I didn't do grades last time. I just kind of ranked guys. Now I'm doing where they would come, what grade they would be given if they came out this past year, and where I think they'll probably end up. So I gave him a 6th or 7th. I think he'll probably end up as a around there, a late day 3 flyer like you were talking about. But right now, this version of him, I'm not drafting him. But as a summer scouting project, maybe. And I do agree, Washington State was better. And before the hand injury, it was also a lot better. I also think before the hand injury was better because they just weren't playing difficult teams. The best team they had to play was Auburn, and Auburn was okay at best. And then he comes back from the hand injury and has to play these good teams a lot better. So that also comes into it, and you could see those cracks forming um, in those first 4 games where he's not hurt, especially mentally. He's making a lot of stupid decisions. The accuracy is still not completely there. But I do think that the accuracy could just improve a little bit because he's under so much stress because he had to come back from the injury so quickly. Um, it's interesting to see how he plays this season because the rest of that Oklahoma team got a lot better. So I think this is a playoff level roster still. I could see a world where he comes out and he's somewhat carried by a decent receiving room and a improved O line, and maybe Ben Arbuckle adjusts after year 1. He settles in a little bit more. I think there's real possibility he ends up higher than a late day 3 pick next year. I just wouldn't bet on it.
I agree with you. Real potential for a rebound there.
Yeah.
So that was our first honorable mention. Do you want to do the rest of them now?
Yeah, so that's my only honorable mention apart from one
Okay.
guy, which I think we'll save the Brendan Sorsby conversation for the last honorable mention because literally 1 minute before we started recording, it was announced that he's entering the supplemental draft. So that's a whole different conversation. But you watched 15 guys. Anybody stand out that didn't make your top 10?
Yeah, so the first guy, my number 15 quarterback, is Drake Lindsey out of Minnesota. He is a third-year sophomore and a guy with a little bit of a throwback build. He is 6'5", 230. He is built like a
Ooh.
Big Ten quarterback through and through, and he plays like a traditional Big Ten quarterback through and through. I'm not going to lie. When I watched the first game on him, it was his game against Rutgers where he went 31-41, 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. It was so refreshing, Victor, because I was coming off of watching John Mateer and Sam Leavitt, who ironically are kind of the same guy. We'll get into
Oh
Sam Leavitt
man.
later, I think. And it's like, oh, I think I found my quarterback. This guy is getting through progressions. He is a field general. You immediately notice that he's going up and changing the play at the line. He's setting his own protections. And against Rutgers, a team that was pretty hapless offensively that night, they were just cruising. He was getting the ball out on time. He was looking pretty accurate as well. This is a younger guy. He is way ahead of the 8 ball. So I liked what I saw. Then I got to watch him against a higher level of competition, the Oregons of the world, where Minnesota had to play from behind. And you saw his limitations get exposed really quickly. He had the weakest arm of anybody I watched by far. Just the outside of the field wasn't really on the plate for him, like throwing out routes. Yeah, he gets him out there, but then his receivers have to run 3 yards back through the ball, and then they get tackled for a 1 yard gain instead of like a 6 yard gain. Just lacks that ability to fire it. And that did manifest on the stat sheet. 4 of 16 throwing right in that 10 to 20 yard window, and then 0 for 11 throwing deep left. I think were the most telling stats on him. I mean, he wasn't good anywhere outside the numbers, but 0 for 11 is rough. And then what really kills him is that he's not accurate either. And it's not even like high-low spray where it's something that's easy to mechanically correct. He's just not leading guys very well. And that is such a killer because with his play style of getting the ball out quickly to the guys that he made a pre-snap read to, you need to hit them right in the hands or right in the chest so that they can get yards after catch, so they can get upfield. And he was super inconsistent with that. And then the mobility is just a non-factor. It's not just that he can't scramble, because we're actually going to talk about a lot of guys that aren't really scramblers today. I
Yeah.
think that's an interesting little wrinkle with this class is a lot of the guys are pocket passers, but it feels like they're next generation pocket passers. Drake Lindsey is a last generation pocket passer where he will get tangled up in the pocket. He will trip over his own feet. He doesn't consistently step up, and he's not even much of a sack breaker to keep himself clean. And then lastly, just when Minnesota went down, there wasn't like any fight there whatsoever. I'm not putting that on him. I think that's a Minnesota schematic thing. I mean, they are one of the few teams left in college football that is going to come out there and they're going to try and establish the run when they're down 3 scores in the fourth
Old school
quarter.
Big Ten.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's going to hold you back, but I mean, we're talking checking the ball down on like 3rd and 20, down multiple scores repeatedly. You just need to see more. You need to see some pushing the ball down the field, making adjustments based on game script. And I didn't see that with Drake Lindsey. There's a chance that maybe stuff really comes along. Maybe he can make mechanical improvements, get more power out of that big lower half, and become a draftable prospect. But for now, he doesn't feel like a quarterback that is trending in the way that the NFL is trending. Maybe a really heady backup. Definitely a guy that I think will be rostered in the league because I think he'd make a great clipboard holder. Clearly very knowledgeable, but just for what he does on the field, he's got a long way to go. So that's me throwing a little bit of cold water on Drake Lindsey out of Minnesota, but I kind of hope he proves me wrong because I like his style, but on the other hand, he's a Minnesota quarterback, so fuck him.
Well, that's an interesting scouting report because he is getting a lot of buzz right now. A big riser. I think he's top 50 on the consensus boards. Definitely top 10 in most quarterback consensus boards that you'll see. I didn't watch him, but sounds like I didn't watch him because you told me not to watch him. Spend your time elsewhere, and I did. And a lot of the time that I spent was time well spent. So I'm glad I didn't spend time diving into him. But he does sound like an old world quarterback that. Do you think he ends up being a UDFA, late round
I
7th
have a
pick?
UDFA grade
UDFA?
on him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No Kaylee McManus thing where he just goes last second in the 7th round.
Well, Kelly Manis is kind of like the opposite type of quarterback. He's
Well,
more
yeah.
raw with a bigger arm. They both have accuracy issues, but
But yeah, that kind of thing where they just a late flyer.
yeah.
Yeah, but especially with Minnesota, like you said, teams like that where they're run dependent and they're not really taking a lot of risks with their scheme. They're not really doing a lot. It's mostly really basic stuff that the defense has seen a million times. It's always tough to evaluate quarterbacks, and we'll get to this a little bit more later because there are a couple of guys that I want to talk about this with them where their scheme was kind of holding them back, or where they held back, or was the scheme protecting them. Um, it's harder to evaluate quarterbacks when they're in systems like that where they're not really allowed to or encouraged to make those big time plays. But it sounds like a lot with Lindsey, the arm mostly kept that scheme in check because you can't really attack. The whole shot against cover two is just not really there if you don't have an adequate arm attached to your quarterback.
It was really exposing the limitations of, just like go out there and complete passes and let your playmakers do the rest, because he actually executed that philosophy really well. Like you got an
Good
out route.
facilitator.
Yeah, he's going to put it out there and his receiver's going to run back through and he's going to have a chance to make a play. But you do that 3 downs in a row, you wind up with 6 yards and then you're Minnesota and you have to punt the football away. So even when you are hitting the layups consistently, if you don't bring that extra oomph to kind of keep defenses honest and generate explosives, it's a tough way to live.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Your 13, 12, 11?
Yeah, CJ Bailey out of NC State. I watched. Do you get to him?
Yeah, he's my number 10. Well, no, actually, hold on. Yeah, he is my number. He's my number 10 since Sorsby he's out of the list now.
So I'll save that conversation. Did you watch Gunnar Stockton?
I did not know.
Okay, so I'll talk about
Who was
Gunnar
your number
Stockton
11
then.
before we do Stockton?
Stockton.
Who's your
Bailey's
number 12?
my number 12.
Who's 13?
I a guy I have a feeling we're going to talk about in the top 10, LaNorris Sellers.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about him, but not in too long.
Okay. You want me to just get Stockton out of
Yeah,
the way real quick?
yeah, because I think
So,
he's notable. He's a Georgia quarterback.
yeah. So he finally started last year after spending the first, it would be 4 seasons of his career, I believe. I think first 3 actually, because he started last year. He's going to be a fifth-year senior this year, behind Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck. And I do think it says a lot that he's stuck with the Georgia Bulldogs program,
Oh yeah,
even with a lot of great signal callers ahead of him, keeping him off the field. He's even Georgia's holder for kicks, which I think is
that's a
really
high
fun.
character thing, you know.
Like as the starting quarterback, a
Yeah.
two-phase starting quarterback. When is the last time we've seen that?
Oh,
So, you'll love the sort of football character and leadership aspect behind him. It seems like Bulldogs fans are, huge fans of him as well, even though he does have limitations in some ways. So, this is a guy that I think has some really clear backup intangible traits. And I think he's got some really clear backup tangible traits as well. My favorite thing about Gunnar Stockton is just what a great distributor he is. This is a guy where I think he could go to a team that has good weapons, that has a creative offensive play designer where you can get the ball into playmakers' hands behind the line of scrimmage because Stockton is going to get the most out of those plays. He was 117 of 120 behind the line of scrimmage. And that's like 117 perfect passes set up for run after catch. He has very simple, compact mechanics. So you get him rolling to his right, he's going to be automatic. He's going to keep the easy passes easy on the sprint outs where you're just hitting the running back in the flats or hitting a sideline throw to the second level. Very comfortable playing behind play action. And he gives receivers a chance. I think that his accuracy is very steady to almost every area of the field. He puts a ton of air under the deep ball and just lets his wide receivers go up. He gives them chances. And sort of everything about this guy just screams like well rehearsed, clearly takes practice super seriously. He kind of gets through progressions. He's more of a one side of the field reader, but everything he does with good footwork. He plays on good platforms. And one more thing I liked about Stockton last year was his first year as a starter. There were clearly some throws where it's like, okay, you got away with that in practice. That's maybe not a game throw. And he was getting lurked and intercepted. First half of the year, turnover worthy play rate 3.4%. Back half of the year, 1.8%. That is a really
wow.
pronounced drop off. So he's settled in. The two things that I think really hold Stockton back are that his arm isn't very strong. I think it's fine. I think it's playable, but you have him throwing down the field in the NFL. The ball's going to hang and it's going to invite defensive backs back into the play. And then what is kind of unfortunate about him and why I don't see him as like a bridge quarterback in the future, he's not a very good post snap processor, I don't think. There's a lot of throwing the ball right into the teeth of like rotating safeties. Hell, even not rotating safeties, he just has this weird thing like over the deep middle where he always thinks the seam route is open, which is kind of double funny because you probably watch like Oscar Delp's tape and you're like, wow, this quarterback isn't very good. He's irrationally bad at throwing just the seam route. And I don't understand it. It's like he's airmailing everything, yet that's his favorite route to throw to. So, but beyond that, he's a great blitz replacer. When he wasn't blitzed, his passer rating dropped 43 points. So when there are
Hey,
7, 8 guys in
thrives under the
coverage,
pressure.
with 7 or 8 in coverage, I think he struggles a little bit, and then he'll hold the ball a little bit, and he'll take some sacks that are on him, not on the offensive line. But Gunnar Stockton, I do think, is very much a draftable prospect. I think he will endear himself to some front office, and he'll be a backup quarterback that sticks around for a good while.
I think that last note you said, like he's better against the blitz. I think that actually makes sense for a lot of younger quarterbacks who, when
Mhm.
they've got seven, like you was talking about, 7 or 8 guys back in coverage, and you've got a lot of responsibilities because if they're throwing 8 guys back into coverage, you're most likely sending out 4 receivers, maybe 5 in the progression. So that is a lot to handle for these guys, and they're especially in the SEC, you're under pressure a lot. You have to worry about pressure a lot. So when you're not under pressure, guys like John Mateer, you saw them crack, bail out of empty pockets because you feel like it should be there. So you lose your rhythm. You don't know what's going on. There's so many things you have to worry about when you're under pressure. When they're bringing 6, it's a man blitz. You just got to know, okay, that guy, he's not open. That guy, he's not open. That guy is. I'm going to throw it to him. Step up, bam, hit him in rhythm. it makes sense that a lot of these guys are better when they're faced under pressure because that's just kind of natural to them in the SEC. It's natural to them to just check 1, 2, 3 rather than worrying about the coverage, what will be open in a second, what is open now, because in these match systems and deep coverages where guys are rotating, it's very difficult to anticipate what's going to happen in a second or two with movement so constantly. And these modern defenses against just a straight out blitz, you don't really have to anticipate. You just got to figure out if your guy beat his guy or not.
Yeah, and I think it also makes sense because, your blitz answers, you get them installed heading into the week. It's they're going to show this pressure look and we're going to expect to go here versus when they drop 8 back into coverage, you get to your second, third read. Now you're trying to piece together the space between defenders. Oh, he's shading that way, but can he get a hand in there? Can the safety
Yeah,
come down and take that away? It's a lot less rehearsed, I think. So, potentially something that could come with experience.
definitely. All right, I think the last thing we have to get to before top tens is Brendan Sorsby. Literally, as I said, 1 minute before we hit record, Brendan Sorsby was announced he's going into the supplemental draft. And that makes the conversation, I think, a little bit easier because, first of all, the conversation around him was going to center around should he even be playing this year? Which it's insane that he is in the first. He was granted this injunction by a judge in the first place that he's allowed to play this year. I don't think he. I think he enters the supplemental draft because I doubt he was going to be able to play this year. I think the Big 12, the NCAA, were going to just force him not to. Like the NCAA, if it gets close enough, they're just going to say, "Hey, Texas Tech, if he plays it down for you, you're never going to the college football playoff or the championship ever again. Like you forfeit the rights to do that ever again. If you is he really worth that? And I don't think Texas Tech thinks that he is. Um, so I doubt he ever plays, and that's why he goes to the supplemental draft. If he did, I have no idea how to rank him because I'll get into it. Maybe this is a take. I watched a lot more of him today. I watched 4 or 5 games. I'd already seen a couple. I was halfway through his evaluation whenever he went into the transfer portal, and I stopped and I moved on to somebody else. But I watched 5 of his games today. If we were drafting all of the quarterbacks, if we were taking every quarterback that we're going to talk about today, right now, NFL draft is today. You got to pick your franchise guy. Sorsby is my pick if you don't include the off the field stuff. He is the best quarterback on the field for me right now um, as a prospect. I think in a year's time, if he was playing a year, I still think he might end up as the number one. But there are other guys who I believe have chances to overtake him. But I think right now it's close. He's the only guy who ended up with a true first round on the field grade for me out of this, and I think he would have been QB2 comfortably in this past draft if he had come out, which it's looking more and more stupid that he didn't. You know, his game to me is tremendous, and it's somewhat difficult to parse through because, like we were talking about earlier, Cincinnati's offense is not a typical NFL offense. It is somewhat typical of a college offense. It's mostly centered around Sorsby gets a key. There's a couple of guys short, and if they're not there, just chuck the long ball. That is most of the offense, but Sorsby is uniquely qualified to do this because he's got a great arm. You know, he can sling that ball 50, 60 yards down the field, even under pressure off the platform. Like he's got that arm to and he's got the touch and the air under it to make it so it's really tough to intercept it if he's on point. But he also has like legitimately A minus velocity within 20 yards. Like he just rips balls in the tight windows when his platform is sound. There's a lot to like about him. We were talking about post snap processing. I think it's some of the best in the class. There's a lot of fantastic flashes of it. He just looks at it's a trips formation. He looks to the trip side. After half a second, he moves away because he knows nothing is there, and then he goes to his comeback or his long ball on the other side of the field. He is a really impressive prospect. I'll let you talk about him for a little bit. There are shortcomings. He cracked under pressure a little bit last year. I'd like to see that improve, and a lot of his accuracy did take a nosedive deep because I think he just doesn't always have a perfect platform, and those were where his turnover-worthy plays come. But he is the lowest turnover-worthy play percentage of anybody in the class, and he's the lowest pressure to sack percentage of anybody in the class. Two big things. This guy doesn't take a sack, and he doesn't turn the ball over that often. That's very impressive.
So we view Sorsby really similarly in a lot of ways, especially like you talked about that high trajectory deep ball. It's really a unique deep ball because he has unique throwing mechanics. He's kind of a side armor a lot of the time,
Yeah,
which leads
he
to some
at
batted
three quarters.
passes.
Yeah,
on the deep ball in particular, he releases it as early, like as close to the ear, and then just straight up as any quarterback I have ever seen.
He
Like
does.
the touch that he puts on some deep balls, it's like a mortar shell. It's weird to look at because he diagnoses the blitz really quickly. He notices, oh, that defensive back is flat-footed. My guy is faster than you because we have Jeff Caldwell on the team. So I'm just gonna mortar it on up there, and he's gonna run under it. And it was really pretty a lot of the time. What made the Sorsby evaluation so challenging for me is you mentioned also how simple Cincinnati's offense was a lot of the time. It was very run focused. He was not doing most of the heavy lifting for them over like the first 70 yards of the field in the
Yeah,
majority of games, I would say. And some of the heavy lifting he did do is just using his legs in the designed run game. And a
which
lot of the stuff,
are
he's
very
great.
good. Yeah.
He's certainly great. Yeah, he can contribute as a scrambler. He can contribute as a designed runner. He is elusive. He's got great competitive toughness about him. So, real ability to contribute in the run game. But when he is winning with his arm, a lot of the time it's on RPOs because RPOs are a huge part of the passing game. And so are the screens, and so are the
Hmm.
pump and go deep shots and the ISO deep shots. And it felt like there was so little actual get three guys deep into the progression, read things out.
I
Now,
agree.
what makes this so tough is I can't tell you conclusively that Sorsby cannot do that because there were instances that I saw where he did get three guys deep in the progression. Now, I think I'm a little bit more suspicious of some of the reps that you liked where he would open up to one side of the field and then he would turn back to the other side. I think Sorsby is incredibly comfortable in structure. And that is a super commendable trait. He is decisive. He throws with anticipation within the structure of the offense, which I think is a brilliant offense. I think he uses his eyes well. So my theory is that on a lot of the times where he opens up to the trip side and then looks away from it half a second later, he's basically just holding the deep center field safety with
Yeah.
his eyes, and then he flips back over to the comeback or to the hitch or to the ISO ball because he knows he's got great pass catchers and he's got one-on-one and that he's going to give them a chance. And that is credit to Sorsby. Like he understands the matchups. That is a winning trait. That's something NFL quarterbacks do. But it just really freaks me out that we haven't seen this guy win like an actual NFL quarterback does. That being said, I was planning to rank him as if he was going to be in the 2027 class. I had him at number 6 with a first to a second round grade. So I
Wow.
was a big fan of Sorsby as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you because a lot of the times when he does that, it's first, he doesn't go right to the trip side. He goes, he takes a peek at the safeties, looks at the trip side, then he gets back to Jeff Caldwell on the other side to throw it. I think most of the time he knows that before he looks to the trip side that he's going to the other side because it's cover three. I'm going to throw my comeback. Nobody loves throwing a comeback against cover three more than Brendan Sorsby does, and you can't blame him because you got a 6'5", 225 monster on the other side of the field that just doesn't really lose those kinds of balls. Um, and I think when you asked him to do pure progressions, which, like you said, wasn't a lot, there were good moments and there were bad moments. I think sometimes he struggled to get to that backside dig, when it's open, but sometimes he did get there. And a lot of the times when the high low reads were really impressive. He was able to quickly get to his man. Half field reads, I thought he was really proficient at. If there was an area for improvement, I'd say it's full field reads, pure progressions, which again, Cincinnati doesn't do a lot of, but Texas Tech does do a little bit more of. Moot point now, but so I mean, a lot of the talking points I had prepared. It's summer scouting. We're talking about how guys are going to do this season. It's a very strange situation. So since he is entering the supplemental draft, what do you give up to like? I surely somebody after watching the tape, I am sure that somebody's going to give up a pick for him.
Oh, definitely a pick. I mean, I've heard rumors of a first round pick, and after doing the eval on Sorsby,
I
I don't think it's insane. The
I
talent
agree.
is not insane to take in the first round. It's
No.
how much stock do you put in the gambling situation? And to be honest, I really don't know because like Victor, look around us. Like gambling has infected so many people.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, does it show a lack of discipline? Yes. Is it like an irredeemable character flaw where you're worried that he's going to be like a tremendous off the field issue? No, but like, could he do it again? Yeah, and get suspended again? Yeah, and you're really
Yeah.
worried about that. So the interviews with him would be really important.
And that's one thing I am concerned about. I don't think it's like an irredeemable character flaw, but the fact that not only are you betting, which I think is forgivable, it's a problem, but I think it's forgettable. He's betting on his own games. He's betting the unders on his own games, on Indiana games, on early Cincinnati games. that is an actual problem, and that speaks to the integrity issue. Which again, we don't know this guy personally. We've not been in interviews. That's what makes it impossible to say. That's why it was so difficult trying to figure out where to place him in my rankings. I put him 8th. I ended up with him 8th. I think he's the most talented prospect in this class, and I put him 8th because I just have no idea what to do about him. So I think if you're in the supplemental draft, I might give up a second rounder for him. I wouldn't give up a first. I think if he didn't have those issues, I think if he came out in the past class, there was none of the gambling stuff or it didn't come out. I think that I probably would have taken him, maybe even top 10. My comp for him it's not perfect, but I think he's got shades of Bo Nix. You know,
Mm,
that ball that is reasonably accurate in college, but then starts to waver a little bit more down the field, which Bo Nix still has accuracy issues short. And I will say Sorsby's not perfect. He has some of the accuracy issues in the short and medium range that Bo Nix does, where it's not like he's completely off by a mile, but it's on the wrong shoulder. It's a little bit behind the guy running the dig route across his face. You know, but he's also good at a lot of the things Bo Nix is. They're similar types of scramblers where they're really fast, but they don't look to scramble immediately. It's kind of that last resort thing. They're both good on the run, running to the right side. They're both showed a lot of comfortability with that. Both have naturally good pocket presence. They can step up and hit their thing when they're in rhythm, but when they're thinking too much, I think a lot of stuff goes awry. So I like that as a comp, and I think 12 is a natural range to go for him, right where Bo Nix went. So especially if he had stayed in this class, he probably would have ended up as the 4th or 5th quarterback taken, probably in the first round because I think this class is stacked. I think that would have been a good spot for him. Now he's going to go to the supplemental draft. I bet somebody uses a second. I Maybe there's a team that has the interviews. He went through rehab. That takes a lot of guts to go through all of that in the public eye. That is not something that's easy to do. You know, maybe a team is okay with it and they spend a first round pick on him, but that would be a shock. I'll say that. I'm not expecting that to happen.
I saw a lot of Jackson Dart to his game as well.
Oh, sure.
Just a lot of stuff we're not sure about with the on-field product, but the arm talent's there, the mobility is there. You think a lot of the instincts and the traits are there as well.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a disappointment all this happened because he is really a talented quarterback. Now, 45 minutes into the episode, we're getting into our top tens.
Oh, okay. So I have
Yep.
OneDrive settings stuck up on my screen, and I keep hitting the X, and it won't fucking go away.
Okay.
I'm hitting minimize, and it's not minimizing Victor. I can't move it around. It's this floating window.
Do you need to click on it?
Okay, I hit the icon in the bottom, and that made it go away. I can't get rid of like the icon in the bottom, but I'm gonna be happy with this. This is a big
All
win for
right.
me.
We made it through.
For now.
There's always a technical issue when we're recording an episode, and it just came 45 minutes in.
All right, you want to start us off with your number 10 to 7 quarterbacks?
Let's do it. Okay. First, I want to say it's been, I think, what, a little less than 2 months since we recorded an episode and talked about prospects of
Mm,
draft prospect. It's good to be back, man. I've missed talking about prospects with you.
damn
This
right it
is fun.
is.
All right, so my 10 through 7. I got to take Sorsby out of it. Hold on. No, he was my 7th. He was my 7th ranked quarterback. So here, let me make these adjustments real quick so I don't get tripped up. Um, my 10 through 7. At 10, I've got C.J. Bailey, the quarterback out of North Carolina State. Number 9, I got LaNorris Sellers, South Carolina quarterback. Number 8, I got Trinidad Chambliss out of Mississippi. And number 7, a little bit of a surprise, C.J. Carr out of Notre Dame.
Okay. At number 10, that would actually be Gunnar Stockton for me now because I had Sorsby ranked
I see.
initially. Number 9 is Jayden Maiava from USC. Number 8 is Sam Leavitt, LSU via Arizona State. And number 7 is Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss.
Cool. All right. So Maiava is in my top 6. So we'll talk about
Okay.
him later. And then you said you had Stockton. We already talked about him. Chambliss and who was 8?
Sam Leavitt.
Leavitt. And so I did not watch him. I didn't get around to him. I did want to, but there was not enough time. So where do we want to start this off? CJ Bailey?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. I'll start off because I don't think it's a super complicated evaluation. Um, he is a really raw prospect. He makes my top 10 simply out of the fact that I had 11 guys done, and John Mateer's a UDFA. I have a fifth or a sixth on him if he were to enter the draft right now. But the thing that he has on his side is age. He was, I believe, a sophomore this past year,
Third
entering
year
his
sophomore. Yep.
third year sophomore. So he's young. He's 20 years old. Entering his fourth year, there is a lot to like about his game, mostly surrounding his arm talent. Uh, he can really send that ball down the field. Like it's got a really pretty arc under it, and he does zip the ball with a decent amount of speed, a lot of velocity. His platform is not really good. His throwing mechanics cause a lot of problems with his accuracy specifically. I think he's not stepping into it really well, and when he is, his arm kind of dangles out there. His release has a lot of different angles in a way that it doesn't seem like he has control over. So I think there is a lot of room for him to improve simply by redoing his mechanics. And that is what makes me hopeful that Bailey can end up being a quality NFL player or a prospect. Because if you redo his mechanics, I think there's a lot of stuff there. But there was no real strength to me, I think, on his tape apart from that arm. I think if I had to say one aspect of his game was best, oh man, I think I'd probably talk his when he was in a rhythm, um, and just looking at standard coverages, standard reads, I don't think he was awful. He was average, just getting through his regular progressions. For a 20-year-old, he showed a lot of ability, get around. He was trying to run. He was sometimes a first read and run guy, but he was trying to get through his progressions a lot, which I admire, and I think you see improvement there. I think that's a big thing with him. There is a development track. He is getting better, right? But NC State's receivers weren't very good, and the offensive line sucked. And that definitely did him in because he was horrible under pressure last year. Just kept bailing out of clean pockets because he was getting frightened because he's under pressure every single time. So when he does have a clean pocket and a clean platform to throw from, he's not used to it and it panics him. But when pressure comes, he has to run away, and he's decently fast, but there's only so far you can run. He wasn't great off platform. So CJ Bailey, I mean, there's so much to be desired from his game. And I don't think I think he'll probably end up being a day 3 prospect. I don't think he comes out next year. If he does come out next year, but I don't think he comes out next year. He's probably a 2028 guy. I think there is a very real possibility that he does end up improving that stuff. And I think the biggest thing for him this year, I think, is realizing you have 2 more years left to develop. This year, I want to see him improve the mechanics because if he does, the accuracy is just scattershot and it's pretty bad. If he does, I believe that's going to come along. So that's what I'm looking for with CJ Bailey in 2020, in the 2026-2027 season. Is just a overhaul of those mechanics. Throw from a clean platform, set your plant leg, and drive through it. Not just this fadeaway stuff, which makes sense because you're under pressure a lot. But I want to see that redone.
It feels kind of weird to me even talking about CJ Bailey in this episode because when I watched him, I went, yeah, I like him. I have a draftable grade on him, but he's just such a
Yeah.
not 2027 class guy. Like, I think there's a better chance he goes in 2029 as a fifth year senior than as a 2027 guy.
Will he be a fifth year
And
senior in 2029?
yeah, he is. Oh, no, I'm wrong about that, aren't I? I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, he's a third year junior.
Yeah.
6'6", 210, really lanky, which is kind of a slightly concerning thing. You worry about his ability to take punishment. He's doing fine so far behind NC State's Swiss cheese offensive line, but once he fills that in and works on the mechanics, I think that he can develop the arm that you seem to think he has right now. I was a lot lower on his raw velocity. I really liked his touch and his understanding of trajectory. I think he has a very nice deep ball because he knows how to get that perfect trajectory and drop the ball in over his receiver's shoulder. I thought that his velocity working the outside, working deep middle, it left something to be desired, and that was one of the reasons why I don't think he'll be out this year because I don't think NFL front offices will view him as the super high upside type of quarterback. He's also just rough around the edges in a lot of ways, like you mentioned. I think he has the right idea under pressure. He knows that you hang tough and you take a
Yeah.
beating and you get the throw off. But his brain isn't quite there yet. where his body is. So he'll stand in there and then he'll make some of the worst decisions you have ever seen as he gets drilled by the free rusher. And I'm not like talking down on his football IQ. I was really pleasantly surprised by how advanced it is for a guy that's only heading into year 3. Like you mentioned, there is some really nice pure progression stuff where he can get through reads. I think he does good work pre-snap. There are snaps of him being able to navigate the pocket, but when he was really under duress, there were borderline meltdowns at times. I mean, versus Notre Dame and Miami, the two best teams on the schedule, 1 touchdown to 5 interceptions and a 57% completion ratio.
Yeah.
He got rattled against good competition in those games. And yeah, he has some mechanical things that I think ding his accuracy. I really like his release speed. I thought that
Oh yeah,
was
sure.
one of the key components of his game. One of my favorite things about him. I think release speed is really underrated, but like CJ Bailey's a good athlete. He's a guy that you want to use on a lot of play action rollout stuff. He's got this little hop when he rolls right, which for a lot of guys is okay. Like they just have a natural jump in their throw on run mechanics and it works for him. It doesn't work for CJ Bailey. It looks kind of disjointed and just makes him really inaccurate whenever he's rolling to his right. I think he can fix that. And I think that he will eventually develop into a very scheme versatile NFL backup type. I'm not sure that I see the starter upside for him, but he gets bigger, stronger, drives to that lower half better, works on his follow through. I think he shortens his follow through up a good amount right now. Maybe he does develop the arm strength. Now you're looking at a pretty mobile, pretty smart, pretty versatile quarterback. So I do like CJ Bailey. I had a draftable grade on him.
Yeah, and I think his arm talent, I don't think it's anything special. I think I give it a B, B minus, something like that. So it's something to be positive about, though. It'd be average in the NFL, maybe I'd say, to slightly below average. And I think there's a lot to like when he's improvising, when he does get out of the pocket cleanly and he's on the run. I think he's got a decent playmaking gene. Um, there is stuff about him that is enjoyable to watch, but like you said, those Notre Dame Miami games where they were just rotating the defense, throwing him a lot of advanced coverages, match coverages where he just didn't anticipate it. He was just throwing at defenders constantly. I mean, he just didn't see it coming. So there's a lot of stuff to be to work on this offseason. There's a lot of stuff to work on over the next couple of years, but you've got time, and he's not a 2027 guy. So one to watch, I'd say.
Speaking of stuff to work on, I can take Sam Leavitt, who is my number 8 quarterback. So it's almost exactly like the John Mateer conversation. It's kind of eerie how similar these players are, except I have a true sixth on Mateer and I have a third to a fourth on Sam Leavitt because I think Leavitt has a little bit more consistency to his chaos. This is another guy who kind of got his season ruined by this time a Lisfranc injury that he tried to play through. Wasn't the same guy. He got shut down. Lower body injuries can screw with your mechanics just as much as upper body mechanics can. So I think you go back pre-Lisfranc injury and things were better with Leavitt. However, there were still a lot of concerns. The big issues with him are just he's a one read and run type of quarterback. You ask him to try and get past that first read, hell, even if it's like reading one side of the field, he struggles. His process really deteriorates. He drifts back in the pocket for sacks. He has some of the same arm arrogance as Mateer. I don't think it's quite as pronounced, and it's in a different area of the field. He's never seen like a deep out or a corner route that he will not throw, which gives you some very high highs, but also some low lows. Average accuracy. I think that's what we've seen from him at his best. So very, very rough around the edges. However, the best of Sam Leavitt, it is really inspired quarterback tape, I think. He has one of the top 3, I would say easily strongest arms in this class, just excellent raw velocity and spin, ability to play from any platform. He makes some of the most just batshit throws under pressure of any quarterback you'll see. Like not just in this class. In this
Yeah.
class, throwing under pressure, he is easily number 1. Coming down from ridiculous uphill arm slots or having that sort of Jordan Love trait where a guy is bearing down at you, but a receiver's hanging out wide open in the middle of the field. So you just kind of go whoop and you hit him with the fadeaway and you drop it down to between the safety and all the blitzing players. He's got some of that to him. And he just makes magic happen. Normally, I'm a lot lower on those, they run around, they use their legs, and they break the defense that way kind of college prospects because it doesn't translate to the NFL most of the time. However, Levitt just plays that game so well. He's got a great pump fake, a pump fake he consistently wins with when he's on the run. He uses it super intelligently. He is a dangerous and refined runner. Like, some guys are just fast and athletic and they run around and they make the wrong reads. He knows how to use jab steps to open up the corner on third down so he can steal it away from you and pick up a first. He's an escape artist breaking the pocket. He's got the best jab and spin out move of anybody in this class. And his just talent to reverse the field and reset the pocket, he's the only buddy in this class that does it because it's an insane thing to do. Like, conventional wisdom says that you should not run all the way back around the defense and use your trailing offensive linemen as blockers, because what if you get sacked? But Sam Leavitt doesn't get sacked. He makes it work a lot of the time. He doesn't take all that many bad sacks, which you would expect. So there are moments where, when the structure around him is good, he can execute it, and then you get that as the cherry on top. And, he's going to LSU. They have a solid history of producing quality quarterback prospects. It feels like they always have good playmakers. They have good offensive
Lane Kiffin, head
infrastructure.
coach.
Yep. I think that maybe he can take a big step up there. And if he takes a big step up with his physical traits, this is going to be a guy we talk about in first round conversations. Again, I think some of the intangibles are there, even if this isn't a guy that we see consistently getting through his reads and making the best decision every time. So it's about taking that next step and reemerging with LSU, getting healthy from the injury and playing your best ball, because the arm talent is spectacular. The playmaking instincts are spectacular with Sam Leavitt. So I don't know that he's a guy you have to watch, because I think it's a pretty cut and dry evaluation. He is a traits-based developmental prospect.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of Arizona State over the last 2 years, and there have been those good moments. I definitely see that. And there have been just as many bozo moments where, what are you doing, Sam? Like, what's going on here? And a lot of accuracy issues. But I think there is something there, and I really liked him last year. But it'll be a somewhat similar conversation to Sellers, where I liked him last year, but it was contingent on the fact that you got to improve this year, and then you just didn't. And again, you can attribute that a lot to the injury. And I didn't watch his tape a lot. This is just based on broadcast, me watching Arizona State games. So trust Elson's eval over mine. But Leavitt, I definitely, I think there is something there, just from what I've seen as well. So I'm inclined to trust your evaluation. I feel like that's a good segue into LaNorris Sellers, who is maybe the most traits-based dart throw in this class, where I have a 3 through 4 on him because the traits are unbelievable. What do you got on him?
I have a true 6th.
Okay. But I don't think anybody can deny that the traits are just absolutely unbelievable.
No, absolutely not. They're great.
He's so fast. He's one of the best scramblers. Like, there are guys who are fast, but they just don't scramble well. He scrambles so well. He's a joy to watch. Like, when he's on, it is just dazzling. Like, the games against Clemson are some of the best highs of any quarterback in this class, I think, where he's just running and he's just chucking guys off him because he's 6'4", 240 or something like that. He's just throwing guys, stiff-arming Clemson defenders. And then he pairs that with just an absolute bullet of an arm. This guy can, off platform getting hit, can throw that ball 60 yards down the field. It's not a theoretical thing. I think I've seen him do that multiple times. Unbelievable arm. He's got the zip to basically access any window on the field. I don't think it's like top 3 in the NFL level, but I think top 6, that's reasonable. He's top 6, top 10. He's an unbelievable. He's got an unbelievable arm when he's throwing well. The rest of his game is just up and down, and there's a lot more down than there is up. Really, I think the biggest issue for me, there's a lot of issues, but I think the biggest issue for me is how he performed under pressure. 71 sacks over 2 years. I think above 3.1, probably 3.2 time to throw both years as well. This is a guy who doesn't get through his progressions very quickly. He takes, to his credit, though, I will say he could just be a first read and run guy. He's not always a first read and run guy. He tries to get through his progressions, but that also means that he takes a lot of sacks because he's trying to get through his progressions, and he's just not there yet mentally. He can't really get through all of those things. Not a great multitasker on the field yet. This again shows when he's pressured, he's really fast, but when he gets out of the pocket under pressure, being chased, he's not going to look up and find that guy who broke his assignment and there's a coverage bust down the field, 40-yard touchdown. He's not going to find that. He's just going to lower his head and run at the first sign of trouble. And again, not helped. A similar guy to CJ Bailey, not helped by the South Carolina offensive line at all. They're letting guys through very easily. So that also led to a lot of phantom pressures where he escapes a clean pocket. He takes a very deep drop as well. And with the guys who take a very deep drop, you want to see them step up and really claim that open space. That's not something Sellers really does. Um, his accuracy is middling at best and at worst, like problematic. There are a lot of times where he puts the ball in harm's way when there's an open receiver on the field, and I think that's really concerning with him. There's no touch to his arm as well. That's like I think that's something that is somewhat correlated to just raw arm talent. I think sometimes you have touch or you don't, and I just don't think he has it. It's just one speed and it's breakneck. He gets his receivers killed a lot, similar to the John Mateer discussion. Um, the accuracy is not great. I will say it does improve as it gets deeper, which is not a common thing. But as he throws the ball deeper, he doesn't need as much touch because he's throwing it 60 yards down the field. He's putting absolutely everything on it. So it gets a little bit better. So there's something to be said for that. His release isn't all that bad, but the pressure and just overall his decision making not triggering on these tough middle of the field throws that I know he can hit. He just is hesitant to throw them. A lot of just baffling decisions, running 20 yards back behind the line of scrimmage, getting sacked, or just chucking up an interception. There is a lot of work to be done with LaNorris Sellers, and the thing that concerns me the most is that he did not really get that much better from last year to this year. The development track for a guy that is this athletically and not talented at the quarterback position needs to be there, and it just wasn't. He was one of my favorite prospects last year because I thought that if he gets better this year, we're talking about a guy who we can easily project to improve and on an exponential rate, even maybe into the NFL. But it just didn't happen. And he's sticking at South Carolina for another year. I think he should have transferred. South Carolina's offense was incredibly uninspiring. They didn't add a lot of pieces on the offense that makes me think that it's going to be a different situation. I think it'll probably be a similar thing. So he's going to have to force improvement himself. His surroundings are not going to help him out. I have a hard time seeing him be anything more than a Jalen Milroe type prospect who has these elite traits that you want to bet on, but it is a bet and it's far from certain.
I like Sellers, the football player, a lot. He is certainly fun to watch. I mean, like you mentioned, just nasty acceleration to turn the corner, ridiculous contact balance because, yeah, he's 6'3", 240 pounds, which is insanity. He is a warrior in the pocket. He's like throwing
Yeah,
guys over his back. He's throwing with guys hanging off of him. He was SEC Freshman of the Year in 2024. So expectations for this player heading into the 25 season were very high. He is a redshirt junior now. And I'll one up you, Victor. I thought he got worse this last season.
really?
Yeah. It was some of the worst quarterback tape I've ever watched. Like
Wow.
to me,
I didn't think it was that bad.
he looked like a high school quarterback to me out there. I didn't really think
Alarcon?
there was I thought he was a lot worse than Aller, believe it or
Really?
not. Yeah, I gave him an F in quick accuracy. He had the 8th worst
Oh, yeah.
short accuracy, like under 10 yards, in the entirety of college football, which obviously will not play in. What was painful about it is that I didn't feel like it was directly tied to any aspect of his mechanics. Like he was just
They're
throwing the
not
ball
that bad.
behind guys. He was throwing the ball ahead of guys. It doesn't really feel like he's a natural thrower of the football to me, which is, I mean, it's going to be really tough to remedy that at the NFL level. Then the pocket presence, like these guys that are outstanding athletes like Sellers, you kind of expect them to have good pocket presence, at least to some regard. Like you expect them to take the best escape lanes out of the pocket. There was a time he got sacked by a two-man rush where neither edge rusher decisively won the rep. He took off directly into the arms of a guy who was getting blocked by his offensive tackle.
I think I
So
remember what you're talking about. Yeah.
there's bailing from clean pockets with him, but then there's also just not finding a way out of pockets where he's getting absolutely crunched. Doesn't feel like he diagnoses the rush very well. And then, I mean, the decision making just isn't really there. I don't think he really, this feels harsh, but I don't really think he knows what's going on the field. Like, I saw what you saw. He tries to make it through progressions sometimes, and I do respect that. You like seeing a guy who's trying to get better, but never did it feel like he understood where the play was supposed to hit. There was a lot of leaving wide open checkdowns, just begging for the ball and then taking a sack. A lot of having a wide open, say a dig route, and then you make the wrong decision and you just throw it into the teeth of cover three. It's double coverage. Either your receiver gets killed and it's incomplete or it's intercepted. So it's going to be a tough way up for LaNorris Sellers. That being said, not only am I rooting for him, but I do think there is some reason to be optimistic, which is why I have a draftable grade on him. You mentioned how uninspired the South Carolina offense was, and I agree. I mean, it was almost equally as painful to watch as Sellers' execution of it was. Offensive coordinator Mike Shula, who only coached his second season. So that 2024 campaign, that was under a different OC. He has been fired. So it's going to be fresh
Good.
blood calling plays for Sellers. And maybe a lot of it was the play installation. Maybe it was the feedback that he was getting. Maybe that's what was holding him back and stopping him from progressing. And it's not like the instincts stuff, because if it's the instincts, that's scary. If it's the coaching staff, and this is still a guy that we can mold and get more out of his physical traits, that is where I get excited about Sellers, because obviously the mobility, I think his deep ball is just straight up good as well. There's a lot of fun stuff to like.
It's
with
pretty.
Sellers.
Yeah. And like you were talking about, like we've been talking about, the offense, good that the OC got fired. I mean, anybody can go out there and call deep crossers 90% of plays. I mean, it was just pretty bad. And to Sellers' credit, like, he did try to make stuff happen, you know? He was trying to get plays made. It just didn't always work out. Like, I think there is a playmaking gene to him. Like, I think he lacks like natural accuracy, a natural passing arm, like you were talking about. Just doesn't look comfortable, but he does look comfortable making plays. I thought his best reps were when he was in rhythm and he was looking, and for those windows where he could make something happen, even if it wasn't really designed in the play. I saw it a lot of times where he's leading his guys open. It didn't happen often, but he's got a great lead, got good vision for momentum sometimes when he's comfortable, which just was rare. There were a lot of times where guys are running crossers and he just drops it perfectly in the bucket, 35 yards down the field in stride. And it makes you think, man, what could this guy be? And then the next play runs 20 yards down the field and he takes a sack. So it's difficult to say. And it's very I'm glad he ended the season on a positive note, because the Clemson game was one of his better ones. He's just so talented on the ground. He's so good at running the football. Like, there's a future for him in the NFL, even if he wants to make like a position change to tight end or run it. Like, he is such a talented runner, not just in the fact that he's athletic. I think he's arguably a better runner. He's more creative than he is athletic, which is a lot to say because he's so athletic. He's one of the most creative quarterback runners I've ever seen. So that's something that is truly unbelievable about his tape, and you got to give him flowers, because I think not that stuff doesn't just come naturally. Creativity and seeing these lanes, you have to work on it, and Sellers clearly has. That is where he's put a lot of polish into his game. So I think that's something he deserves credit for as well.
Hoping he takes a big step up this year.
Hopefully. All right, where do we want to go next? Chambliss, is that
So
the only guy?
yeah, you have Maiava inside your top 6, right?
Do you have Carr inside your top 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think Chambliss is the only guy left, and I think he's more your guy than my guy. So you're
Yeah, I
talking
can
about
talk
him
about Trinidad
all the way
Chambliss.
last year.
So for me, Chambliss starts off a new tier. I have a true second round grade on him. These are the guys where I'm not saying you're going to be a good starter, but I'm saying I wouldn't be overly surprised if you turn into a good starter. And that's a rare thing to say about a quarterback. This is a very refreshing quarterback class because, yeah, it feels like there are 7 guys that could legitimately be that could legitimately be plus starters at the NFL level. And I think Trinidad Chambliss is one of them. And a big part of that for me is his background. It's very unique. So he was very under recruited out of high school. He was as much a basketball prospect as he was a football prospect. He wants to pursue football moving forward, and he has to go to Ferris State, I believe, as a walk-on, but don't quote me at that.
I think so.
And he sits his first 2 seasons at Ferris State. The first one's just a true redshirt. I guess he wasn't ready to see the field. And the second one, we would later learn, was allegedly completely derailed by like the worst case of tonsillitis of all time. That was the controversy. Is he going to get another year? Is he not? If you remember that from last draft season. And I'm inclined to believe it because within the next couple seasons, he took Ferris State to a D2 championship, won a championship for the Bulldogs. And that really put him on the map. And he transferred up to Ole Miss, where he took him to the semifinals. He really, really progressed from game one of his 2025 season to, that playoff run where he was the hot hand. Like, this was a player who was actively punishing defenses on the football field, kind of putting Ole Miss on his back, and he was getting true first round hype there. Winds up going back to school, getting that extra year for the tonsillitis, and now we're going to see if that pays off for him. I think the first thing you notice watching Trinidad Chambliss, his arm talent just really pops. His spiral is impeccable. This is a smaller guy. You don't expect the ball to just pop out of his hand the way that it does. And it is to every level of the field. He can rip it between zones and he can rip it down the field as well. And that leads me into his, I think, second most definitive strength, which is his raw accuracy and placement on the deep ball.
Oh
We
yeah.
don't talk about a lot of quarterbacks ripping the deep ball down the field, at least not if you're trying to like describe it as accurately as possible. It's more you put it up there with a nice trajectory, you drop it down in front of your guy, and they run under it. You give your receiver a chance, they make the play, they do the rest. Trinidad Chambliss is a line drive deep ball thrower, and he makes it work at one of the best clips of anybody in college football. And to me, that just shows immense natural talent. It is
Oh, yeah.
so rare to make that type of deep ball work, but because it's unique, he gets a little extra out of it. He can beat you back shoulder. He can beat you with a high point fade. So he can just consistently punish you downfield, even if you're in phase playing good coverage, because boom, I'm going to hit you with the back shoulder ball. And there's no real defense for that. I think that from game one to the last game of the season, two completely different quarterbacks. When he made his debut for the Rebels, he was a D2 quarterback that was playing D1 ball, and it was not pretty. He's got good infrastructure around him. He's got some natural talent, great arm talent, great athlete. He's not reading the field. He's not accurate. He doesn't know what he's doing. I watched game one on Trinidad Chambliss, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have a take. My take is that he sucks, and you can't draft him because he's that bad. But I stuck with it. I watched 5 games on him, and every single one, he got better. By the end of the year, he was, you know, proficient in half field reads. He was making pretty good decisions for the most part. But then pre snap, he was great. He knew where the ball was supposed to go. He was contributing in the RPO game because he's sizing up the defense efficiently before the ball is snapped. And I think that's a really important thing to see from him. I think that his eye usage was coming along. He wasn't staring down receivers anymore. And to me, that shows immense work ethic. And that is going to be key for Trinidad Chambliss because he is all about development track and momentum. This is a guy that didn't commit to football until he was like actually 3 or 4 years into his career and winning a championship for Ferris State. He was still thinking about basketball. He goes all in football, and he takes the Rebels to a CFP semifinal appearance. That is incredibly rare. He does have obvious deficiencies. He is 6 foot tall, maybe he's sub 6 foot. He's small. He's got a low release. He's an older prospect as well. He has a lot of batted passes, a lot of stuff where it just makes him an outlier, projecting him to the NFL level, and that's always scary to bet on. The post snap processing still needs to come along as well. He gets fooled a little bit too often, but I'm betting on Trinidad Chambliss a little bit. Some people are going to say, oh, he went back to school. That means he's not confident in himself. No, it means he's getting paid a bunch of money to still be a really good NFL draft prospect. I know what I see on tape, and I see a player that's an outlier, but I think there's something special about him as well. I'm interested to hear what you saw.
I think we see him virtually the same. That's a very great scouting report. I will say I found a guy on Twitter, seems to be reliable, that has verified measurements for most
Uh-oh.
of these guys, and they seem to check out. So Chambliss, 6'2", 208. That's what
Okay.
he's got. That's fine. I think that's fine. 5'11", I'm a little bit more concerned. Just it's the 5 and the 6. It does something mentally. 5'11" guys, you can't trust them. But so if you want a verified measurement of any of these guys, I'm pretty sure these are verified. So that is something to
Awesome.
say. That being said, I'll talk about Chambliss's off the field issues, then I'll get in a little bit of the things that you didn't touch on, which most of the things
Okay.
were just very positive. Like off the field, a lot of people have this issue with him where, oh, he doesn't want to play ball. He doesn't want to go to the NFL. Like, that's a red flag. For most guys, I think it is, but for Chambliss, you see his football character on the field that immediately lessens the concern. This guy's out here taking hits. He's 6 foot, and nobody loves to get hit more than he does. He gets right back up. He just drills guys 45 yards down the field while there's a guy in his face. It's really impressive, you know. And then I don't blame him for wanting to go back. Like you said, you get a heap of money to be a better NFL prospect. This is a guy, like you said, doesn't commit to football until a long way to go. And you watch him on the field, there's a lot of work to be done. But that work was done over the course of the season. He went from being a backup to being the starter of the leader of this semifinalist team, rallying a team that nobody thought was going to get out of the second round, beat Georgia because their head coach leaves in disgrace, and that's going to throw the program to chaos. But Pete Golding, their new head coach, and Trinidad Chambliss, they band together and lead this team to a semifinals berth where they were one play away, maybe a half an inch away from going to the national championship. Such an impressive run for this guy, and I've found myself wanting to root for him. I cannot blame him for wanting to go back to school and continue to get better because he got a lot better throughout the season. And I think a lot of his issues, a lot of the things that I don't love about him, can be fixed with another year of developing in the SEC. So I think this is the right move for him. Obviously, eligibility and the whole ethics behind that, eligibility is a disaster. I don't blame him for taking advantage of the system, even if it maybe shouldn't have been taken advantage of. I can't blame him for that because that's what's best for him, I truly believe. On to the scouting report. Like you said, short, but it doesn't really show in his arm. It also doesn't really show in his game more than the batted passes because he works the middle of the field better than most of the guys we're going to talk about today. Not really scared of ripping the ball into tight windows. He finds the backside dig and he just rips it. He's very comfortable taking the seam ball. He sees it's the middle of the field's open. He's going to rip that post because he has confidence in his arm, but he doesn't have arm arrogance as much. He's not going to rip too many balls where he just can't do it. When he makes turnover-worthy plays, it's usually due to that fact that he's trying to make a full field read. He gets around to the other side and he throws something that he thinks will be open, but it just actually isn't due to some random thing that happened in the play, or he just missed a late rotation. There were a couple of times, especially in the Miami game, where he got by a late rotating safety. I think that was one of the picks. That was his pick in that game. Was he threw it right to a safety that came down in the last second. So there's still a lot of work to be done with his progressions, his advanced reads, right? Getting through these full field concepts. It's still something to work on, but you look at him in the playoff versus how he played in game one, whole different guy. Like you said, whole different guy. And that just makes it so the positives stand out even more. You see this guy improving in the negatives. That makes me want to focus on the positives. He got an A+ in throw on the run for me. I don't give A+ out easily. This is the most surgical throw on the run guy I've seen in a very long time. He just looks so comfortable, man. It's impossible. When he's sticking in the pocket, throwing that deep ball, I'm going to say it's reminiscent of vintage Russell Wilson, just laying that ball out 55 yards down the field, making something out of nothing, going out there doing pirouettes, so comfortable out of structure. I think Chambliss is a damn talented player. I have a 2 through 3 on him because I do think in the NFL, some of those middle of the field concerns will be exposed a little bit more. It's different attacking the middle of the field in college than it is in the NFL. I think the durability is another thing I have concerns with. You see him get knocked down in the pocket a lot. I worry that against NFL guys with NFL athleticism, that hurts him a little bit more. I think he'll probably end up being a 30 through 40 kind of pick next year. Maybe he makes his way into the 20s. He's incredibly talented. Some of the physical limitations may get him back, but this is a guy I really want to believe in, and I'm really rooting for.
Glad I'm not crazy, like being a big fan of Chambliss, because you see 6 foot, 200 pounds, 60 or senior. That is not like a fringe first round kind of profile.
He would have been my QB3 in this past draft, just below Ty Simpson, but above Nussmeier, who I was very high on. All right, I think that's our 10 through 7s. We're going 6 through 4.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, I'll start it off. Now, this is where I get a little bit. I took some liberties. So, number 6, I got Drew Mestemaker. Drew Mestemaker out of now Oklahoma State. Number 5, I got Darian Mensah, transferred to Miami. And number 4, I got Dante Moore out of Oregon.
Okay, interesting. I also took some liberties here. At number 6, I have Arch Manning. of course, from Texas. Number 5, I have Darian Mensah. And then number 4, I have CJ Carr out of Notre Dame.
Interesting. So you didn't call Darian Mensah's name. I didn't call Jayden Maiava's name.
No, I said Mensah.
You said Mensah. Who did you not call? Mestemaker?
Mestemaker.
You didn't call Mestemaker's name. I didn't call Maiava's name. So 2 interesting things. And I gotta say, Mestemaker, I'm with you. So this is where it gets really tough because from from Mestemaker all the way up to Arch Manning, I'm like, or sorry, all the way up to Dante. That's spoiler. Arch Manning is my number 3, but all the way up to Arch Manning at 3, it's like negligible. You know, all these guys are so close. But let's get into it. Where do we want to start?
Mensah?
Yeah, I can start with Mensah, and then maybe you pick up Carr, I guess, because you're higher on him.
Sounds good.
All right. Darian Mensah, if we're talking about guys who are the most polished, I'd probably say it's Mensah. It's tough to find a guy who's more polished right now than Darian Mensah. This is a guy we've talked so much about these players who struggle with reading out the whole field. You know what I mean? These guys that when you ask him to do this complicated stuff, they just can't really do it. I thought Mensah was just a really good processor. Doesn't really miss a beat. He's incredibly quick with his reads. He gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like all the way down. And furthermore, this is not a guy who, when they throw complicated stuff at him, when they're throwing a rotating safety, when they're throwing all this weird shit with double mugs and they drop that into a cover 3 or something really weird, or they're blitzing, all these crazy packages, it just doesn't phase him. He knows what he's looking at, and he's confident in what he's looking at. You know, this is a complete breath of fresh air from the rest of this class, where it seems like we're talking about oh man, they got to get better at seeing the field and making these stupid decisions. And so that's not really a concern for him. It takes care of the ball reasonably well. I think he had 10 interceptions, but man, the turnover worthy play rate was pretty low as well. This is a guy I'm pretty confident is just going to be a starter in the league. I don't know if he'll be a great starter, but I'm pretty confident he will start in the league at some point. 56-12 touchdown interception ratio over the last 2 years. His arm is adequate, I'd say. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's not on the level of these other guys. You know what I mean? We're watching these guys with B plus all world arms in some aspects. It's solid. There's nothing to complain about, but there's also nothing to write home about. You know, he doesn't really get a lot of strength down the field. I think sometimes that's the one time I think he's very aware of how good his arm is. He doesn't try windows that he can't hit. That's a very important thing. You know, if you've got a average NFL arm, you don't want to be attempting top 5 NFL arm throws. I didn't really see him do a lot of that stuff except a little bit down the field. Sometimes he threw balls that the window was just too tight and it got picked off or it got batted down. Not too much of a concern because he limited that. Either way, I think Mensah is just really polished. The arm might hold him back. I think he cracked under pressure a few too many times. That will hold him back. And in the biggest games, he didn't play a lot of big games. And when he did, I didn't love what I saw. It was all right, but he just didn't play many big games. So I think going to Miami, playing these big time playoff games, because this is still a playoff caliber roster, playing against these SEC big time giants, Ohio States of the world, against high level pressure and high level defensive coordinators. If that brings out the best in him and he goes out there and he slings it, I think you can trust him to be a first round pick. You know, this is a guy that you've seen him play against the best college football has to offer. There's no reason he can't just go out there and be a starter for you day one, even if he has some deficiencies with his arm, even if he's not the best against pressure day one. I really like Mensah's game. If he does come out there and he continues to struggle with pressure and those big teams where his guys can't get open as much, they give him struggles and he starts to turn over the ball more, then we're going to have a more difficult conversation about where do you value him. Maybe he doesn't have that high of a ceiling anymore. I don't know. But right now, Mensah is on the track to be a first round pick next year, even if it is not a number 1 pick.
So Darian Mensah playing for Miami this year, like you mentioned, via Duke, via Tulane, 6'3", 205, redshirt junior. He caught my eye on the very first play that I watched. Victor, that was a handoff, but something looked different about it. It was silky smooth. There was a little bit of deception to it, and it's like, okay, I wonder if this is just kind of this guy's modus operandi. Like, is this how you play all the time? And the next play was an RPO, and it was a thing of beauty. And after that, it was play action, and it was gorgeous. I had no idea where the ball was going. I knew, okay, well, at worst, this guy is going to be like a backup distributor ball handler
Yeah.
type. He absolutely has that going for him. And then you watch him a little bit more, and it's like, okay, structured offense, that is absolutely there. You are confident. You are utilizing anticipation to know where your receivers are going to be. Like it's an out route versus cover three bail. You're leaving it out there right as he begins his break, receiver runs through it, or it's a hitch
Accurate
against
as
cover
well.
three bail. Yep, accurately. Great tempo. He's excellent within structure. And then you watch more and more of him, and you're looking for the cracks in his game. And you just don't really see them. He is a quarterback's quarterback through and through. I think he's creative. That is one thing I'm a bigger and bigger fan of is passing creativity. Maybe it's because I'm playing a little bit more Madden now. They got the free form passing. It's like, that
Yeah.
seems like an interesting place to put the ball. So you start to think like that. Then you start to notice it when actual quarterbacks do it in real life
Yeah.
where they actually have to throw.
Except
Like,
when Mensah does it, when I do it, I get picked. But when Mensah does it, it gets
correct.
completed. So.
He has that ability to layer the ball, drop it into the correct spots, attack those blind spots. He's got a great deep ball, which he uses at a pretty good clip. Not so much that defenses start to tee off on it and shade the safety in a certain way, but enough to keep defenses honest and keep the boxes light. He's got very deceptive eyes. I think he wins the eye manipulator award out of anybody in this class, and there are guys in this class that are pretty good at it. Just the consistency that he's steering linebackers around with to move them out of their hook zones and throw RPOs behind them, throw zone beaters behind them, little sit routes. It's the small things with Darian Mensah. And then you mentioned he's not great against pressure. I agree. When the pressure gets home, things
It's
can
not
get a
that
little
bad
dicey.
either.
No, it's not terrible. It's a
Yeah.
relative weakness
Yeah.
among a quarterback that doesn't have many weaknesses. Against the blitz, though, he knows where it's coming from
There we
because
go.
he's breaking you down pre-snap.
Mhm.
22-2 touchdown to interception ratio.
Ooh.
You want to heat him up on third down, fourth down in the red zone, he is going to kill you because he wants it all in those situations. He is an absolute playmaker. That's another thing that I'm looking for and that I think modern NFL offenses are looking for is adjusting your play style based on down and distance. This guy is razor sharp between the ears. He's a good athlete. He is sensational on the run. So many modern movement, deception oriented offense traits. It's the arm for me that's the concern. I think it's
Sure.
below average. I think it's
Mm.
below average, just like not just for starters in the NFL, but kind of for everybody. It can play. I think it's better than like Brock Purdy's arm is, and that's why I think Darian Mensah is a starter, and that is why I have a high 1 through 2 on him, with potential to improve if we
Ooh.
see this at a higher level of competition at Miami. There are like little things you can nitpick in his game, but it's mostly just him getting a little too cute. Like, yeah, he doesn't write checks that his arm can't cash, but he writes checks that just can't be cashed by a football. Like if you had a wiffle ball where it could be up down between the linebacker and the safety, maybe, but it's like, okay, that was a dangerous pass. You tried to layer it and the safety just had time to get home. He's not always the most dangerous play extender. I think he did lead college football in throwaways. He was certainly up there, but I mean, that's small potatoes. He is an incredibly smart, effective quarterback. And just the way he plays, the fluidity of it, I have a lot of faith that it translates to the pros.
Yeah, I think I ended up with like high 2 through 3 on him, simply because the arm does bother me, but also the concerns with pressure only mount when you consider that he was the Duke quarterback and he just didn't really play a very good team. Did Duke play Miami? I can't remember.
I feel like they did. I thought I watched that.
I thought I watched that game too, but I can't remember. Um, no, they did. They avoided Miami. They played their toughest opponent was probably Virginia.
Yeah.
They beat them in the conference championship. That was a good game of his. But I haven't seen him do it against this big time competition, and I have worries that the arm will give out against the big time competition. I have worries that the issues under pressure will magnify against these elite teams, and if they magnify against those elite teams, they're going to be bad in the NFL. And another thing is, I just kind of wanted him to take more risks. I know for a guy who's very turnover averse, you don't want him to turn the ball over more, but there were a lot of times where I was like, I think you can fit that ball in there, man, over the middle of the field. Just take that shot, try it, and that is what you need an NFL quarterback to do. They can't just always take the check down. They can't always take the safe bet, which I don't think he does. But I just want him to do it more often. So I'm a little bit skeptical of him right now. But I bet that he ends up as a 1 through 2 for me. I bet that he does respond to the pressure. I can't do it yet because I haven't seen it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I certainly get that. Now, do you want me to talk about CJ Carr, who has some of those similar traits to him?
Yeah. Now this is a guy who, now we're both. He's your number 4.
Yes.
Okay. Well, he's like consensus number 3. He's top 10 prospect. So
I
he's a
have
big
a
time guy right now.
I have a true first round grade on him. So I
Really?
do think, yeah, I think that he lives up to it. Let me explain. So CJ Carr, average size, 6'2", 215, only gonna be a third year sophomore this year. And that is what I think is wild about CJ Carr's game. Because like Mensah, he also caught my eye on the very first play. It was a pass this time, and it was a pass where he was getting heated up. He was under a lot of duress. And he made it through a progression. I think he made it to his fourth read in the pure full field progression. Rushers all around him, so poised, so composed. You can see it in his body language, and he delivers an accurate strike. And I just kept seeing that with CJ Carr. He is always confident, he is always composed. His mechanics are simple. There aren't a ton of moving parts, there aren't opportunities for things to go wrong. And he's very accurate because of it. He's not perfect. I do think that he's at his best throwing outside the numbers, deep to intermediate. In the quick game, it's a little closer to average. There's some placement woes there with him, but I think the consistency is fine. His accuracy, I don't think, is even like a top 3 trait for him, though, because of how good the mentals are on CJ Carr. I think he is a plus pre and post snap processor. I think that his pre snap diagnostics are excellent, but unlike a lot of guys in this class that I do think are good pre snap, when the safeties move around, when you're getting a slightly different coverage than you were expecting, I did see ability to adapt with CJ Carr, and his ability to diagnose man versus zone super, super quickly and make the adjustments required really impressed me. One sort of take I have, and I think I saw a video on this. I wish I could shout out the content creator. I want to say he was a former D1 wide receiver. He did a video about how quarterback play has changed a little bit in like the past decade or two. It's not so much about, oh, they're out, the defense is out in this shell. It's quarters. You can expect the weak spots to be there, there, and there. So you throw to the big mentally red route that's going to be between the zones of quarters. It's not like that. It's you got to diagnose man and zone. You got to key one defender. You got to understand his momentum, and you got to replace him. And so CJ Carr's ability to say in like half a second, quarter of a second, that's man coverage. I got to hit the slant. I got to hit the go ball. I got to hit the comeback. I think is huge, and it made him very efficient. He plays on a pro schedule, 2.54 average time to throw. He understands how to get rid of the ball and not take sacks, not just with throwaways, but with throwing the ball at a guy's foot or throwing up a jump ball, but not doing that so early in the down that you're leaving meat on the bones. He's got a great deep ball. He forces PI all the time. Underrated skill. Do I hate watching it? Yes. Is forcing PI because you're putting the ball in the defender's blind spot effective? Absolutely. A lot of great NFL quarterbacks are great on that. And everybody says, oh, that sucks. I don't like watching that, but it wins you Super Bowls. There are flaws, CJ Carr. I don't think he's very traitsy, but he's like in his third year right now. So I have some faith that he can put on some more size. He can maybe add a little bit more oomph to the mechanics. He can get some extra RPMs on the football. And I just think that his development track is very favorable.
So this is going to be the funniest the scouting report I've ever delivered because what I got on him is he's a traitsy guy who needs to come up on the mental side. And listen, you're probably right because I seem to be on an island with CJ Carr, but man, I don't see it. I'll tell you what I do see. Um, because I have a 2 through 3 on him. I think he'll probably be a first round pick next year because the development track, like you said, is the biggest thing for me because it is there. He's got a really nice arm. I think he's got a really nice arm. He's got a fair bit of zip on it, but one of the prettiest deep balls in this class. It's beautiful to watch. And not only does he have a pretty deep ball, but for a guy who's so young, He's incredibly accurate with it. You just don't see him miss all that much down the field. Now, short accuracy was the second worst in the class for me. I thought it was
Damn.
abysmal. I thought it was terrible. It was just consistently, at best, it was on the wrong shoulder. At best, it was behind the guy. More often than not, it was dirted or skied or like way behind him. So, I mean, I watched 7 games, I think, 6 or 7 games trying to find it with him. And yeah, it's sometimes there, but it's not there nearly enough for me to bet on, even for a redshirt sophomore. So the accuracy is a big concern because if you can't hit the layups, it's just a massive issue. It's something that we don't have to talk about with most guys. We talked about it a lot with Sellers, but you don't have to talk about it with most guys because they just can't hit the layups. I don't think Carr can yet. There's potential there. But one thing that worries me is that his release is really pretty. That's not a word. That's one of my favorite releases in the class. It's compact. It's quick. He gets the ball out high. Like it's. I think pound for pound, I did have him as the best release of the class. I did. Him
I thought it was
and
kind of slow and windy.
all right, we just yeah.
We
Him and
watched
Ness,
different guys.
we did.
You watched Derek Carr. He
That's
watched
true.
David Carr.
Nobody actually watched CJ Carr. We're not sure he exists. We're looking into it. Him and Mestemaker I had as the best releases in the class. Compact, quick, over the top. I liked him a lot there, but I thought there was some stuff that he did well, but there weren't a lot of caveatless positives where you can say, yes, this is a
Mm.
good thing about him without having to say, but, and one thing you didn't mention, got the biggest bozo gene in the class by far.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Did you watch Miami? Listen, I know it was his first 2 games, but Miami and Notre Dame, holy shit. Because I had just
Mm.
coming off watching Julian Sayin, which is
I
a
don't
guy.
think I did watch that game for him. I think I said it was at the beginning of the season. I'm doing like 3 games per guy, and I think I skipped it. Maybe I need to watch it.
No, those games, he was horrendous in those games. But it wasn't just those, right? It was the big issue with Carr for me is that his game, his good games, his good reps all came against really bad teams. Notre Dame had an easy schedule. The 4 games that he was worst in were the only tough games I thought that they had on the schedule. Miami, Texas A&M, USC, and Pittsburgh. I thought all of those were pretty bad. I think he had 3 turnover-worthy plays in the Texas A&M game, 3 in the Pittsburgh game, 1 in the USC game. Only threw for 136 yards against USC. He had a combined 5 interceptions in those games, and those were the only 4 games I thought he played real high-level competition. And even then, Georgia Tech, not a high-level team. Like USC, in those games, the game plan was not revolving around CJ Carr. It was revolving around the running backs. I'll tell you why. Because CJ Carr was a redshirt freshman, and they had 2 of the best running backs in the world. I think that people are. I think we're putting too much on Carr right now. I think he's a young quarterback with a lot of traits that I like at a prestigious program who wasn't asked to do a lot year one. So when he did hit the stuff that was meant to be hit, it was impressive. I think there's a lot to like about him. The touch is really impressive. He's got a lot of high class touch plays. He can extend the play really well, get out of the pocket, make plays happen. But I think it's really early to call him a potential number 1 pick. I think it's really early to call him a top 10 pick. He needs to rein. His decision making is just pretty bad at this point. Doesn't really trigger on those tough throws, hesitates to throw open receivers. There's very little anticipation I saw on tape. And there are so many plays where he runs around in the backfield for 20 yards and then just takes a sack rather than just throwing it away. He runs around in the backfield for 20 yards against Texas A&M and he throws it right to 3 Texas A&M defenders for an interception in the red zone.
I
It's
did
his
watch
first 2
that.
games. It's his first 2 games. I'm going to give him I really like Carr. I think he's going to be a first round pick. I think more than likely he'll be a top 20 pick. I just want to cool the brakes a little bit because right now he is far from polished. I still take him like top 75 in the class if he was coming out, which is impressive for a redshirt freshman. So I don't want to hold him to the super high standard, but it kind of feels like everybody is. So I want to be positive. I'm sorry. I really want to be positive about CJ Carr because I really liked watching his tape.
I think that on a lot of these QB prospects, and in like the future summer scouting episodes, I'm sure it'll be on all the prospects. I think I rank guys more at like what I view as their 50th percentile. And I will confess, when I'm ranking these guys, my like success criteria is where they get drafted. So summer scouting, I want to
Oh
predict
yeah.
where I think you're going to go, whereas during the draft, I'm predicting how well I think your career is going to pan out. So there are certain, and this will be more clear, and I think other episodes as well, like, oh, this guy has certain traits that I know NFL front offices really like. So even if I don't think I'm going to be quite so big of a fan of this guy, come the spring, I'm going to rate him a little higher. And so, with that excellent development track, with the pedigree of CJ Carr, that's why I'm giving him a little bit more benefit of the doubt. And you even said, like, you think he's going to be a first round pick. I think you rank guys a little bit more at their floor, like what they've proved so far.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm trying to put it like, okay, I feel bad going higher on you, and I feel bad going lower on you.
Yeah, I like a guy. That's why I like Mensah quite a bit, because you know what you're getting for the most part. Um, and it's why I like a couple of guys we'll talk about in my top three a lot. But Carr, like, I really hate being negative about these guys, especially during summer scouting. So I want to make it clear that I think Carr's a fantastic prospect, and I think he will probably be a successful quarterback one day. I just don't think we're there yet. So I want to see him get there first. But I'm excited to watch Notre Dame play. I hate Notre Dame, but I like watching CJ Carr play. So I hope they lose, but hopefully he has some good games against good teams, and I can come back next year with a very positive evaluation about him.
I think that's fair.
All right, so is that everybody that's not in the top three?
Yeah, we're down to Mestemaker and Arch Manning, I think.
And yeah, I have Manning in my top three. You have Mestemaker in your top three.
Yes.
All right, so let's do top threes. My top three. Number 3, Arch Manning out of Texas. Number 2, I got Jayden Maiava, the USC quarterback.
Hell!
I know. I know. When I heard you call him 9, I knew we were going to have a fight about this, but I'm ready to have a fight about this because everybody sees him how you probably do, so I understand I'm probably wrong, but this is my guy. I got to stick by him. And just barely inching out of the way into the number 1 spot is Julian Sayin out of Ohio State. I got to tell you, I didn't expect either of those guys to be my top 2, but here we are.
At number 3, I have Drew Mestemaker, Oklahoma State via North Texas. Number 2, Dante Moore out of Oregon. And number 1, Julian Sayin, Ohio State.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so I did CJ Carr last. Do you want to talk about Arch Manning? I can do Mestemaker. You can do Maiava.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about our consensus number 1, Julian Sayin. This is awesome. So I'm doing Arch.
Yeah.
All right. So Arch Manning is the consensus number 1 quarterback right now in the 2027 class. He's my number 3, and he's your number 5?
6.
6. So we're a little bit lower on him, both of them, but I have a 1 through 2 on him. I have a true 2 on him right now. What do you have on him?
Also true too.
Okay. So we probably see him very similarly. With Arch Manning, it was a tale of 2 seasons. The first season, first 6 weeks, it was pretty bad. Texas started out with a loss to Ohio State, 14-7, where they just didn't really get anything going offensively. Had a couple of games, played horribly against UTEP somehow for some reason. I didn't watch that game. I just remember the conversations around it. Then just had a really, really bad game against Florida. It was a really rough looking start, and this was the guy who is anticipated to be the number 1 pick in this past draft. He was eligible. People were saying, "Hey, Manning's going to be the number 1 pick next year. This is a guy who's going to come out swinging," and he sucked to start the season. And most people agreed on this, so he was getting a lot of flack. But then, quietly down the stretch, he started to put together a few good games, a few more great reps, a few less dumb plays on tape. And we're here now where he's back at the number 1 spot. And I don't think it's just due to his name. I think this guy's got a lot of talent to him. You want to talk about his arm? I think it's comfortably B+. I wouldn't say it's the best of the best. I wouldn't say it's elite or anything, but I'd say it's a plus for him. He's got the zip on that ball to reach most windows, probably not every single difficult window with perfect placement, but without strain, I mean. And he does have a really nice deep ball where he can loft it deep, and that gets air underneath it. So his arm is not a concern at all. I don't think it's something that will hold him back. A big thing with him that obviously his uncles, Peyton and Eli, don't have is speed. This is a really engaging scrambler on the ground. Manning out there running past guys, making guys miss. He's honestly a better scrambler than he is athlete, but he's still a very good athlete. So the tools are there for Arch Manning. The really tough part about him was early on in the season. Accuracy, piss poor. Just going everywhere but the correct receiver. He just couldn't really get through a progression well. Like, the pressure would get there and he panicked. And even when the pressure didn't get there, he kind of was a first read and run kind of guy. There's not really much to like on the mental side of it through those first 6 weeks. And you could definitely tell that the coaching staff felt a similar way because they were mostly shielding him from it. A lot of screens, a lot of RPOs, a lot of running the football. And if they were going to throw down the field, it was mostly just going to be a deep chuck it ball where Manning didn't really have to read most of the field. But he continued to get better, and I think one of the biggest ways in which he got better was the progressions. End of the season, I thought you just saw him getting 1, 2, 3 on a semi-consistent basis. Was it perfect? Not a long shot. He was far from perfect, but he was getting through it. He was making a concerted effort to make full field progressions. This is not a guy who's just keying in on one player and then making the decision from there. Sarkisian, the coaching staff, they started to trust him more, and he was making these good decisions. He put the ball in harm's way a lot less. I think if you look at turnover-worthy plays in his first 6 games of the season, he had 14 turnover-worthy plays. In the last 7, he had 3.
1.1%. I got the stat for you.
Unbelievable. Like, that is such a crazy turnaround. 1.1% from, it's probably like 15 or something. Because I cannot express to you how much this guy loved to throw it to the opposing team in the early weeks of the season. But he improved. It's kind of like something triggered in him where he had that first 6 weeks, and you can't blame him. It's the SEC. He's playing Ohio State. These are incredible programs who are bringing with a lot of pressure, and it got to him. But he settled down when the pressure was off and everybody's saying, you're terrible, you're terrible, you're terrible. And then everybody forgot about Texas because they lost that Florida game. It's like, they're out of the playoffs. So the pressure was off him and he could just kind of play ball. It looked comfortable. It looked natural. He was slinging the ball down the field. Accuracy is still far from perfect. It's one of my biggest issues with him. I'm not comfortable with him in any level of the field. I don't think he's accurate at all. I think his release has quite a bit of work to do. It's kind of long. It takes a while, and it leads to bats. And I think it didn't happen a lot, but I think there will be forced fumbles at the very least in the NFL if he doesn't correct it. And again, like we were talking about, the processing, it got better. It is still mediocre at best. You know what I mean? Another thing he really needs to work on, I won't say pocket presence because I like his natural pocket presence. I thought he hitched up really well. He stepped up into the pocket, occupied open space in that back half of the season. Again, first half of the season, he was bailing out of clean pockets every chance he got. But first and second half of the season, he was good at that. He was not great at identifying blitzes and blitzers. The offensive line was often going the wrong way. Could be on the center, could be on him. Maybe they're not giving him the ability to change that. Either way, it does need to improve. So to kind of sum up, right? This is a guy who has a lot of potential, good traits, and he looks like a pro when he's in rhythm, when he's playing well. He seems like an NFL guy. He's got NFL traits. He's got an NFL arm. He's a passer of the football. But it's just, he's still got a ways to go. The development track is there. I don't think you can blame him for having a rough start to this first year. That's why he's my number 3. I'm going to bet on him. While I also still think he's a good player, I'm sure there's a lot more to touch on. This is a big prospect. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on him. There is a chance he's the number 1 pick. I don't think he will be, honestly. I think he probably won't be a 2028 guy. He'll probably be a 27 guy. But there's a world where he is a 2028 guy, and he still has work to do. I bet against him being the number 1 pick. I would not bet against him being a top 5 pick, though.
It was level tape in the first half of the season for Arch Manning. Watching those games, it didn't even look like a good college quarterback. I mean, not even like a good Power 5 quarterback, just not a good college quarterback. He had some of the ugliest misses you will ever see. But then you dig into it more, and I think it's pretty explainable and not representative of what Arch Manning is as a quarterback. So you mentioned he has this really distinctive release. He's kind of a sidearmer. Like, he actually might be the most sidearm of any guys we've talked about. And there are a lot of sort of sidearm influenced guys in this class, but it's not like a normal sort of flick of the wrist sidearm.
So, yeah.
where you see a lot of these mobile quarterbacks, they flick it around for RPOs. He staples that guide arm into his rib cage, and then he like fully torques around like this. It's
There's
just
at least 3 elbow changes in there.
yes, it's odd, and it has very unique release timing. It looks like if you got even slightly in his own head, if the timing gets slightly off, it could get really ugly in a hurry. And it
Yeah.
did. You especially saw it in the run. Like when he was rolling to his right, just completely hapless. He was dirting the ball consistently because his arm would be so far overextended, like beyond where he could get power from his base. He's just skipping throws, and it looks bad. There was one play in particular where I just noticed based how he released the ball in his hand. It's like he released it early, but it didn't spray. It floated. And I realized he was like truly playing scared. He was short arming the ball. I'm familiar with doing that. I've done it when I played baseball. I did it in disc golf the other day because I'm worried about hitting that kid that's over there. So you release it a tad early, you kind of push it, and it goes horribly wrong. By the end of the year, I was done seeing that. He was playing confident, and we were seeing what Arch Manning can actually be. Is the accuracy perfect? No, because it is still a really janky release, but it was better. There were no more floating passes. The ball wasn't slipping out of his hand anymore. He had his command back. He had his swagger back, and he had his playmaker back as well. And that is a unique trait that I think Arch Manning has. It's a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
like Sam Levitt. He gets into scramble drill. He knows how to facilitate. It's not just about throwing accurately on the run. It's using a pump fake. It's using your body to be deceptive. You're looking at the pylon, boom, you hit the crossbody throw, and you punch it in the red zone. I think he's a red zone playmaker. I think that he's a third down playmaker. He's a full field reader, or at least he was by the end of the year. He layers the football. He's creative. He has so much Manning in him, even if I don't know if he has the physical traits. Physical traits are fine, but I think the conversation around Arch is a little unfair. Either you think he's a number one overall pick or you think he sucks. What if he's something in between? What if he's a second round quarterback? What if he's a 27th overall quarterback and he winds up being the 16th best quarterback in the pros? That's still really impressive. And I think that's maybe what Arch Manning is. That's what we're going to see this season. Can he compound those gains that he made at the end of last year? We can't see another slow start
Yeah.
because then that's going to start to attach to his game, and it's like, okay, you might need 7 weeks to settle in. We can't have that. But if we see a version of Arch Manning that's 5% better, and he just stacks those gains up and he gets a little bit better every week, he is going to be a first round pick.
Definitely. He needs to come out swinging like he did last season, if not just for his own confidence, but for the public confidence, right? Everybody right now, if you're not like a big draft head or you're not really in tap with college football, because I feel like it's common knowledge among people who are really big football fans, like and watch all 22 and all that stuff. It's common knowledge that Arch got a lot better by the end of the season, and he is pretty decent now. But for the average fan, everybody still thinks Arch sucks. You know, you talk to somebody, they're like, "Yeah, Arch is a terrible quarterback. He's going to suck next year. I'm not worried about Texas." You should be worried about Texas, man. They got Cam Coleman, they got Hollywood Smothers, and then the other Raleek Brown, the two running backs from NC State and Arizona State, respectively. This is a dangerous team, and I'm an OU fan. Like I'm fucking afraid of Texas. I'm petrified. But if he comes out and plays like he did last season for the first couple weeks again, nobody's gonna care, you know. And if Texas drops a couple of games early because of that, because I do think they have to play Ohio State again. You know, that's a difficult thing to do. They get them at home this time, so it'll be a little different. But you can't come out slow against Ohio State again, especially not against Julian Sayin, who we don't think is going to come out slow. Uh, but Arch Manning, like you were talking about, he's got that playmaker instinct. You can see it where it just clicks and he gets out of the pocket, like I was talking about with his pocket presence. He steps up, evades a blitzer, and then just drops one 30 yards down the field in the bucket in stride. And you're like, that is an NFL guy. I think I'm higher on his arm than you, and that's probably the difference. I'm not ultra high on it, like I said. I just think it's a comfortably good NFL arm.
All right, that is Arch Manning. It's going to be a fascinating narrative to follow.
Oh, yeah.
Can I get into Drew Mestemaker now?
Yep.
This is a fun conversation. I love me some Drew Mestemaker. So, Oklahoma State via North Texas. He is a third-year sophomore this season. So last year was his first year as a starter. At the college level, surely, just the college level. He started in high school, right? Drew Mestemaker was a varsity starter at quarterback in high school, right?
Right?
Nope. He started at safety. He started at special teams. He was a backup at quarterback in high school. This motherfucker walked on at North Texas. North Texas. Like, this is just a dude. This is a guy who's never going to even see the field. Earns the starting job, and now he is my number 3 quarterback with a first-round grade. And I'm going to spoil it. The biggest problem I have with this game is basically just that he played at a really low level of competition in an absolutely inspired offense with great infrastructure, and you don't know how it's going to translate.
Yeah.
Victor, that's a conversation you have in the spring when you're deciding whether or not this guy is like a top 10 talent or just like a middle of the first round type of talent. There are so many things that I love about Drew Mestemaker's game. First of all, I think he's got the arm strength to consistently test tight coverage and win down the field. He's just got crisp mechanics. He's a classic 3/4 thrower, excellent spiral. So he checks that box. He absolutely looks the part. He attacks every level of the field, and he does it ruthlessly and consistently, inside and outside the numbers, deep, intermediate, short. One weakness he does have, he doesn't layer the ball well. And this is a weakness right now for him because a lot of the times linebackers will get arms up into passing lanes and they'll bat it down. But I like that he is attacking throws that you should be using touch for. Like, even though he's not executing right now because he doesn't know how to layer the ball, he understands how to throw that corner route or that seam route. He has to add some trajectory to it. He can access every route on the field. He's trying. He knows where his receivers are throughout his progression, and that is super impressive for a first-year starter. I think he is excellent in the pocket. He keeps his eyes up. He knows how to creep into those spaces and buy extra time without bailing out of the pocket. He's excellent running RPOs. I think he has excellent eyes. Another really rare trait for a first year starter, that eye discipline where you're not staring down your first read. He's a full field reader. I just find Drew Mestemaker to be so advanced, and I don't know what holds him back. The only thing I can think of is, maybe playing Oklahoma State is Big 12 now, right?
Yeah.
Maybe playing in the Big 12, which I guess is technically a higher level of competition, but not known for its defenses. Maybe the game speeds up and he gets 5% worse, but I'm gonna be real with you, Victor. I don't see that happening. I think Drew Mestemaker is gonna be just fine. He retains Eric Morris, who was the head coach at North Texas, now the head coach at Oklahoma State.
Basically retains
That
the entire roster, honestly.
Basically, particularly Morse is a huge vote of confidence to me because I loved the offense that he was putting
Oh,
together.
yes.
This is sort of an overused term, I think, but really a guy who knows how to press the right buttons at the right time. It's like, it's 3rd and 7. We're going to run a draw. You don't see it coming. He hits you with exactly what you're not expecting. The pass game is just really well designed as well. He knows how to balance the run and the pass. Yep, you get to maintain the slot receiver. I forget his name. I did watch him. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
The running back or the slot receiver?
The slot receiver, the white guy.
No, I don't remember his name. No.
He was like PFF's second highest graded receiver last season. I don't think he's like a big time pro guy. I have a 6th round grade on him, but in college, he is a big time trust target for Mestemaker. And then the running back, who's just insane,
He's stupid good.
breaks tackles in like 8 different ways.
True
You take
freshman.
all of those guys, true freshmen,
All right, yeah,
all
we'll
of
talk
those
about him
guys
next year.
who dominated at North Texas. You port them over to a new look roster at OSU with the same guy calling the shots behind the scenes. I am really, really excited to see how this pans out, and that's why I have a true first on Drew Mestemaker.
I love Mestemaker. My projected grade for him is a true first. I think he'll be so good. I don't want to rain on the parade at all, but I'm going to have to do it a little bit because I think that I'm going to give him a very interesting compliment. I think he's the number 1 pick in the 2028 draft. I don't think he's this
Okay.
year. And that's not to say he can't come out next year. I just think he doesn't end up doing that. I think Oklahoma State. It will be a slight adjustment for him. Maybe he doesn't put the best tape possible on tape this year. I think what happens is Oklahoma State is a very good team, 8-4, 9-3, something like that this year. but they say, hey, Drew, we got all these players. We got Caleb Hawkins going into his junior year. We got all these guys still so young. Eric Morris. We're just feeling our way in this conference. You stick around. We're going to the fucking national championship next year. So I think that he probably ends up being a 2028 guy. And I'm sort of backed up by some of my concerns with him. I don't see everything that you see mentally with him. I thought as a full field reader, I didn't really see that. I saw flashes of it. Definitely. There's so many flashes of just elite stuff on tape. But I thought a lot of the time, Eric Morris is such a great head coach that he was kind of protecting his quarterback. We're going to give you this one key. Does the safety come down or does he stay up? Is it too high? One high. If it's one high, you go here. If it's too high, you go there. And he was really good at that. Like, he was good. I see the key, and I instantly know my option. It was clear that Eric Morris did a fantastic job of installing, making sure his quarterback knew what to do. And Mestemaker, I think one of his best traits is just pure confidence, and he has the arm to back it up. Throwing it into tight windows. You know, he's throwing with anticipation, which is just not something guys this young really do that often. He's such an impressive guy. His release is so smooth. The arm talent is great down the field. It's great short field. It's just I have concerns with his progressions. I think there is a ways to go. You know, I think he's more of a C+ guy, and I think some rotations gave him some trouble. It's just we didn't see. There were a lot of plays, I think, in the American that were completions that were either incompletions or picks in the Big 12 because these guys just aren't that fast. You know, against Big 12 competition, maybe we see a few more turnovers, and I'm a little worried about that. I want to see him quell that. And I think we probably see that happen in the first 6 weeks, and then he gets more comfortable. He realizes what he can and can't throw, and he gets better. And Oklahoma State gets better. And then he comes back and he just sets the world on fire, and he's the #1 pick franchise quarterback in 2028. That's what I'm trying to get at here. I think there's still enough work to do where I'm not confident that he ends up being this super high quality NFL prospect, probably a top 20 pick, maybe top 30 pick next year, but top 10, top 5 is a little bit it could easily happen. It could easily happen. I just think he might want to wait another year. One thing that he needs to improve at is probably the worst in the class at this is what I call pressure management is kind of a misnomer though. It's we talk about pre-snap reading of the coverage. He just doesn't really read the blitz pre-snap, and he got his head taken off so many times by blitzers that come down at the last second and just kill him. You know,
True.
he needs to figure out what he's doing, what the pocket plan is. You need to have a plan for your reads just as much as you need to have a plan for what's going to happen in the pocket when the ball is snapped. He's not really good at that yet. He's really good at avoiding pressure though. When somebody comes right, like that guy that comes breakneck speed at him, he can just sidestep him, you know, but he can't always do that, you know? So I'd like to see him improve at that. I thought he improved a lot over the season though. I love Mestemaker. I think he's a second-round prospect right now. Probably ends up being a first-round prospect by 2027. Probably top 5 prospect by 2028. Sky's the limit for this guy. There's a lot of good players in this class that I slightly preferred over him. But like I said, from 6 to 3, it's like this close for me. So he could easily be my number 3. Him and Manning are very similar, very close together. So I love Mestemaker. And, you know, he's playing for Oklahoma State. I'm going to be rooting for him. I root for Oklahoma State, so it's exciting.
And one of those guys that you like more than Drew Mestemaker, if I'm not mistaken, is Jayden Maiava.
It is. He is. I'd like to. So what is your grade on Jayden Maiava, just so people can understand how stupid I'm being?
A 5th.
All right.
He's got some Carson back to his game. Like, that's not the comp, but I see them similarly as like ride or die gives you a chance backups.
What's your big issue with him?
I think some of the decision making on him is questionable, but it's questionable in a way where I don't think you can just clean it up. I think that the way he lives is going to translate very poorly to the NFL level, and I think there are going to be a lot of interceptions.
That's fair. I think he's good enough where, I mean, I see the same thing you do. The thing with Maiava is those improviser kind of guys who create out of nothing. There is a certain level where it's like, yeah, it's going to work in college. It's not going to work in the pros. But there's a certain level to those guys where if you're good enough, it translates. And I think Maiava's above that level. I think he's above that line. This is the most magical player I've seen since Caleb Williams, man. Like, what the fuck was going on? I watched 8 games of this guy because I could not get enough. I mean, I already made the thumbnail for this cut up. It's Maiava magic with a little wand on the front. You probably see it if you clicked on this video. It's unbelievable to watch. He's such a fun watch, and I think he's just going to keep getting better. A guy who could have declared this year, he would have been my QB2 if he had declared. There are issues with this game. I don't think there's that many, though. You look at it, he's big. What is his verified measurement? Let's see. Where's he at? 6'4", 217. Looks it. I mean, he looks bigger than that,
He
honestly.
does look bigger than that.
Um,
He's listed at 230. Maybe
yeah,
slimmed down a little bit.
he looks bigger than that to me. I've seen some people have concerns with his arm. I don't at all. I think that velocity is high level. He just zips these balls into tight windows, and that just is getting at the base of why I love him so much, which is I have an affinity for these guys like Garrett Nussmeier, who just never know when to quit. Like, yeah, I'm going to throw this ball, and there's just nothing you could do about it. There were times this past year where Maiava threw a ball that, you know what? There's a chance it was intercepted. There was no chance it was intercepted because the defenders just couldn't have seen that coming. It's like, what the fuck is he doing, man? He's throwing balls 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, being tackled 30 yards down the field into tight windows. And yeah, it shouldn't work, but he's in the Big Ten. These are the best athletes in the world. And he completes these passes. If he was doing it at North Texas or an American Conference team, or even in the ACC, I have concerns. But he's doing this against Notre Dame. He did this against Notre Dame. He didn't have a great game against Notre Dame, but he's still killing them. He's still the Maiava magic is there, and that kind of playmaking ability, that X factor, that gene, it translates to the NFL when you are at a high enough level. Bryce Young is a guy who struggled early on, but he never lost that playmaking X factor. He never lost that ability to perform when the lights are the brightest, and I think that's what Maiava has. His accuracy is maybe it's probably one of my least favorite parts of his game. Like it's B minus C plus. It's not that scatter shot, but it's just not on the right shoulder all the time. It's not always. It's behind guys, all that stuff. But I think his off-platform accuracy is very fun, and I think he's lethal on the run. He's so comfortable outside of the pocket, destroying guys. And he is so good outside of the pocket because you basically just cannot take him down when he's inside the pocket. He just shrugs guys off, man. He shrugs guys off. He understands where he's at in the pocket. He understands what the edge rushers are trying to do to him. He steps up. He avoids this pressure. He bails out. He's fast. He's got that a little bit of that Mahomes in him where he's just faster than the guy that's chasing him always, no matter what. You really just can't bring him down. Find him in the backfield. I think that his improvisation, his ability to step up, avoid the pressure, but keep your head up, eyes open, looking for the open receiver is the best in this class. And I'm talking so much about him when he's outside of structure because that is where he is just magical. But inside of structure, I think he's perfectly good quarterback. Reads the field pretty well. I think he's full field reader. Gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on multiple occasions. I don't really see him missing a lot of open reads. He gets to the backside dig more often than not. Not really fooled that often by rotating safeties, which is a big thing that the NFL is. 40% of plays are rotating safeties. You need to be able to see that, and Maiava, it's just not really an issue for him. I think this guy's magical. I think he's got an above average to maybe even top 10 NFL, top 8 NFL arm. If he gets with the right quarterback coach, no worries on the mental side of the game. Maybe he could, when there's a guy bearing down on him, I'd like to see him improve his throw under pressure. Not like when he's on the run and he's making these crazy throws. I think sometimes when he's in the pocket and a guy comes at him, he gets a little bit antsy. But I think this guy shows everything you want from an NFL above average starter. He has the size, the height, the ability to make plays out of nothing, the playmaking gene, the X factor, the confidence to hit these windows. And yes, he has some issues with this. He has issues with his decision making. I think the benefits far, far outweigh the negatives. My comp for him, it's not perfect, but it's Cam Ward. I think he's that kind of player where he gets to the NFL, and yeah, there are bumps. There are a lot of bumps, but there are also a lot of positives. And you get Cam Ward or Jayden Maiava in a good environment. If you throw him to the Jets year one, I feel like that's unfair. He might fail. He might fail. There are situations where he will fail in the NFL, but I also think there are places where he goes and he becomes a top 10, top 8, top 6 quarterback in the NFL. guys like this just don't come around often. I think he's got a genuine Caleb Williams level improvisation ability. He's not like, no one's on the level of Caleb Williams, but he's the closest I've seen to it. He's playing under Lincoln Riley. It's no coincidence. I don't think this is a helmet comp. I've talked for a long time, but I love talking about Jayden Maiava. This guy is magic. I'm telling you.
He could be Cam Ward. I have that in my notes because I think they have a similar trait. They always know where every receiver out on their route is. And so it allows them to limit their pressure to sack by getting rid of the ball without, well, like with barely looking at the receiver, because they have that trust to quickly snap around to that route. They know where their dude's going to be, and they process defenses well enough to know where the defender should be. I have issues with some of the throws he makes because he thinks he knows where the defense is, and he's wrong. I'm a little bit lower on his ability to attack disguised coverages than you are. But, dude, I absolutely see the magic with Maiava. He is a fifth-year senior, born in Hawaii, played high school football there, and then he moved to Nevada, earned a starting role at UNLV before taking the job at USC in 2024 after Miller Moss got benched, and he has not looked back since. I think he has steadily gotten better. He has a very unique trait. I mean, he has a lot of very unique traits, but the one that I don't think you quite mentioned is that he is able to push the ball down the field really, really early in the rep. So he's not opening himself up to sack opportunities. That's uncommon. That's something that a lot of the NFL greats like Tom Brady have. That's something that, for all my criticisms of Fernando Mendoza, I think that's something that Fernando Mendoza has. And that is because Jayden Maiava throws into voids. He throws into spaces. He's not throwing to receivers all of the time. He sees open space and he says, you know what? I'm going to find a way to get the ball there. And it's a feast or famine way to play. It was more feast than famine at USC. It's just there were a lot of balls that were about 4 inches over the outstretched hands of a linebacker and about a yard in front of the safety bearing down. And it's just
But they
so
were
rare for that to
completions.
translate. But they were completions.
You know?
I do know it's tough. I hate being a little bit lower on Maiava.
Listen, I get it.
The accuracy is painful for me because I think his accuracy is average, and it's like when I think you don't diagnose rotational coverages very well and you're not accurate, it is tough for me to bet on a guy that makes his money doing the most batshit stuff you have ever seen.
Listen, I get it because I think if he's 5% worse, I'm right there with you. Like, the margin is so close with him. I just can't not bet on him because he just looks more like an NFL quarterback than I think anybody here does. I think I opened up my scouting report. Let's see. What did I call him? Jayden Maiava is the next in the growing line of the modern gunslinger, almost down to the fact that he's coached by Lincoln Riley. He's the modern gunslinger. He is the modern NFL quarterback to a T. He gets out of the pocket. He makes plays. This is a guy, game on the line, 4th and 8. Pressure comes. The nickel blitzes. You don't have anybody to pick it up. He beats him. He gets outside the pocket, and he finds a miracle. And I think I'm just willing to bet on this guy. You know, he may have 12 to 15 interceptions a year in the NFL, but if he makes crazy, unbelievable drive, season-saving plays more often than he does, make those bad plays, 30 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, you'll live with that. A guy with the arm like this, with the anticipatory power that he does, the understanding of momentum, of coverages, of where guys are going, nobody understands how quickly and how well a corner can turn his hips like Jayden Maiava. And he's so good at fitting these balls into these windows because he knows, yes, he is going to get about 4 inches from the ball, but he's not going to get there. He just knows that he isn't going to get there. You know, I think once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times is a fluke. He does this 50 times this season. That's not a fluke. He could crash and burn this season. Absolutely, he could. I'm a bet that he's a first round pick next year. I'm a bet that he's I think he's probably top 15, top 10 next year.
I can't wait to watch this tape in the spring when he's officially out for the draft, if for no other reason.
Remember when he was your number 2 in summer scouting? How stupid you look now when he's a consensus 6th, 7th rounder.
Or remember, this guy was your number 2 in summer scouting. Yep. Now he's your number 1. You were too low on him.
I was. All right. Your number 2, though, is the consensus number 2 as well. Dante Moore out of Oregon.
Yep. 6'3", 206. redshirt junior. This is a guy who was decorated coming out of high school. He was a 5-star recruit, immediately started at UCLA.
He's 215 listed, so he's got a couple extra pounds on him,
Okay. He's
which he didn't
bulked
look
up.
like it. Yeah.
Well, I
Uh,
like that he's bulked up. That would be a big win for him. He transfers to Oregon, sits a year behind Dylan Gabriel, and then explodes back into the spotlight. A much more polished product than what we saw at UCLA. I'm going to open with the weaknesses on Dante Moore because they are so tangential. He misses throws in one specific department. He misses his check down, especially like that third window crosser. Like the crosser has already crossed and now he's just got to float it out there. And he misses them because he refuses to reset his feet. He's like, he doesn't have that quickness on his feet to
yeah.
turn toward the crosser and fire it over there accurately. But I had a moment of realization. It was like 3rd and 4, and he's looking at that third window crosser. He's got it open for the first down, and he sails it. It's behind his target. It's like, Dante, you've been so accurate all game. What was that? And then I realized, based on his body language, he was trying to avoid turning his body so that he could keep the linebacker in place and ensure that the drag route gets the first down. And I started applying that to like the rest of his game, looking at things through the lens of he's using his body language intentionally to try and keep guys honest. And it's like, okay, this is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the class. He's just trying to do a little bit too much. Such an easy thing to clean up. You can remedy the
Yeah.
vast majority of his missed throws, and he doesn't miss many throws to begin with. I think his pressure detection isn't very good. He'll get caught out every once in a while. And tying into that, I do think he's got butterfingers. He's just going to fumble the ball sometimes. There are a couple reps where he's just dropped it.
Also,
But
Oregon center. It was. I don't think was it Lalulu.
I think
All
it
of
is
last year.
Lalolu, unless he got hurt.
There were a lot of issues with snapping later in the season, so that doesn't bode well for his evaluation.
I did notice that. The last thing on Dante Moore, 3 big time throws to 6 turnover worthy plays against Indiana twice and then Texas Tech, the 3 best defenses on the schedule. That concludes my weaknesses on Dante Moore. He throws what I think is the best deep ball in college football. Incredibly reliable placement and pacing. He doesn't throw it too hard. He doesn't throw it too soft so that defensive backs can catch up to it. And even when it's not getting caught and not like padding out his adjusted completion percentage, it's forcing PI because of how well it's spotted, consistently being in guys' blind spots. He's got the super versatile arm action to him so he can play from any platform. Like I mentioned before, very reliable accuracy. He has operated everything from under center to 5 wide. He is a comfortable, confident field general, despite the fact that he doesn't have a ton of playing experience. He's an excellent post snap processor, maybe the best post snap processor in this class. I think he naturally drifts away from the rush. And he's even like a modern ball handler type. I think he's impeccable on the read option. Not the most athletic guy in the world, but a guy who's, I think, vision and sort of savvy with the game and understanding where defenders are heading, a guy that can pick you up some key first downs. Dante Moore is one of 2 quarterbacks, Julian Sayin, of course, being the other one, that I'm confident are going to be solid NFL starters. That's high praise. There aren't a lot of quarterbacks in most draft classes where I feel good about you being, a guy that a team is happy to have starting for him. Dante Moore just checks so many boxes at such a young age, and I expect him to get even better this season.
Yeah, he's a really impressive talent. I am glad that he came back for another season because I do think he could use some development. I was a lot higher on him before I dove into more games of him. I think I watched like 1 or 2 games in the beginning of this season, and I really liked it. But I will say, nothing has quite changed my opinion of a prospect and muddled the evaluation of them so much as that Dante Moore, as those games against Indiana, as Dante Moore played, as since like CJ Stroud versus Georgia. Of course, it's the opposite thing, where I don't know how to reconcile his season, which was incredible. He's an incredible quarterback in most games, with the games that he played against Indiana, especially the one in the playoffs. Because normally, like you were talking about, he's this composed, comfortable guy who, looks off safeties, makes these great plays, is confident in where he's going, which he's not always that confident. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But against Indiana, he just couldn't handle the pressure. He could not do it. They were they're throwing everything they had at him, and he just all of those issues that I'd seen, like, I like to see that improve. That's not a great rep right there. I don't want to see that happen. All those minor things showed up in that final game against Indiana and the first game against Indiana, to be honest, because I watched both of those where, like you were talking about a little bit, like, yeah, that ball's open. You should throw that. And then he just doesn't trust his arm. He doesn't really trust that there's not confident enough of an anticipatory thrower to make that throw, that NFL throw, the stuff that you have to make in the big time moments. So when faced with pressure, he couldn't make any throw for the most part. Like, he just refused to trigger on open receivers because he was worried there was a guy behind him ready to hit the ball out, force a fumble. He was worried that that guy was about to come open. So many times he sees what defenders are doing incredibly well. Like, he knows when he's going to get pressured. And it's almost to his detriment. A guy that doesn't know that the pressure's coming in 2 seconds will just rip one down the field to an open receiver, and he's going to get hit. But Dante Moore, he sees this happening. He's like, oh shit, this guy's here. I got to leave. You don't have to leave, man. Stick in, take the hit, and make the throw. I don't question that he is the football character. I'm not saying that he can't take hits. He's shown more than once that he is fully capable of just sticking in the pocket and delivering. He just speeds up his own internal clock so often, so a lot in the Indiana game, but still it was noticeable in those other games, to the point where I have to say I have to look at this guy as a player who I think in Will Stein's offense at Oregon didn't have to do a whole lot compared to the other guys on this list. I don't think he was reading out the full field very much. Most of it was half field reads, one or two. I think you have a key, and then you go to your guy, similar to how I talked about with Mestemaker, where it honestly seemed like they were not protecting him, but it was a simple offense, mostly built off of the fact that they had more talented players than the other team did. So we're just going to let our talent win, and then Dante Moore was a facilitator of the football, which was very good. But when you ask him to be this big time player, to be a top 10 pick, to be a top 10 quarterback in the league, to do the things that a top 10 quarterback needs to do, which you hope that you can get out of a number one pick, which is the aspirations that Dante Moore surely has, I was just kind of disappointed. I think he's going to be a good player, but I am glad that he came back to school because I want to see him improve processing against advanced coverages. I want to see him get to his full field reads more often. I want to see him improve that pressure management where you can feel comfortable sticking in a pocket that is going to collapse in a second or 2 seconds and make that throw. I just want to see him be a little bit more confident. And if that means more turnover worthy plays, I'm willing to take that trade. You might be able to see a trend. I like guys that are more willing to take that risk. So maybe that's why I was slightly lower on Moore, but I still think he's really good. Like you said, the deep ball, so pretty. The arm is unbelievable. He's accurate at every level of the field. No questions about the football character. He had such a tough freshman season at UCLA, comes back, sits for a year at Oregon, then he plays at a super high level for them most of the season. It's just those 2 games against Indiana that really bothered me. I don't know how to reconcile that with the rest of his evaluation. I gave him a 1 through 2. I think he'll probably end up being a good player next season, but a team that lost a lot of talent to the draft, they lost Will Stein to Kentucky. I could see a world where this new offensive coordinator comes in. He's not that good. He asks Moore to do a lot more, and they just don't have a very good season. And he ends up in a similar place to where he is now. And that does scare me. So Dante Moore, more likely than not, will be a good NFL quarterback. I agree with you, but I don't think it's a guarantee.
It's going to be a big test for him for sure this year.
Definitely. All right. Does that mean that we are on to our last guy?
Our consensus number one.
Our consensus number one, Julian Sayin out of Ohio State. Both of us have number one. I gotta ask you, when you started your first quarterback, did you think he would be number one?
Oh, of course not.
No, I watched him this season, and I was like, yeah, no, this is not a very good NFL quarterback on the broadcast. And then people were projecting him as this top 5 pick for next year, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch him, and it'll be ridiculous. I thought the same thing that I thought when watching CJ Carr, where people are overrating him. And they're underrating Julian, saying, man, this guy's a beast. Do you want to start off with him, or do you want me to start off with him?
I can start off with him. I'll paint a broader picture and you can cover some of the nuances. So, saying 6'1", 208, third-year sophomore this season. This is a guy with the recruiting pedigree for days. He was Elite 11 MVP, the consensus number one quarterback in his class. And then this last year, all freshman team, of course, second team all Big Ten. That is how prolific he was. And a big part of that was Ohio State's infrastructure. He has Jeremiah Smith as his number one trust target, and that's saying a lot that Jeremiah Smith is his number one target because Carnell Tate was on that team as well. A lot of these deep shots he was putting up were wide open. The schematics were good. He had a pretty easy job, pretty good job by Big Ten starting quarterback standards. That being said, he made the absolute most of it. He led, I think, every college football quarterback in adjusted completion percentage throwing deep at 62%. I just thought his overall command as a passer was really excellent. He doesn't really miss high or low or left or right. He's kind of just
Forever.
accurate throwing everywhere on the field. And that baseline of accuracy to fall back on, that is awesome, especially considering how turnover averse Julian Sayin is. You can make a strong case that he might be the best, most consistent turnover avoider in college football. Like, you pair avoiding turnovers with throwing a great deep ball with being super reliable and trustworthy in structure. Man, like, those are three heads of a really exceptional quarterback. You don't have a lot of filling in the cracks to do between those three traits, but you know, he already does some of that stuff. I think he's really good pre-snap. He beats zone coverage at a high level, so I don't think it's just the structure. I think he's already bringing quite a bit of his own stuff to the table mentally. There are things I want to see him improve on, particularly I think that sometimes there are wide open receivers that he's missing, especially like splitting down the seams of cover two. He's locked in on his top targets, these exceptional Ohio State wide receivers, where he's not seeing his second read. He's not seeing his check down as early as I want to. And I think can get a little bit gun shy at times, but I'm nitpicking a player who was awesome as a redshirt freshman in the Big Ten. That's really exceptional. I think he's going to get better. Julian Sayin is my number one quarterback. He has all the physical tools you could want. I'll let you continue this conversation, but I think he's going to improve in the areas he needs to improve. It's just that's the one asterisk I have on him. He's got to show it. I think he's going to.
He's so awesome. He's my number 3. Like if we're talking about if you drafted him today, he's my number 3 quarterback behind only on the field Brendan Sorsby and Jayden Maiava, and he's just behind Maiava. He's so talented day one as a redshirt freshman. You talk about guys like Arch Manning, redshirt sophomore last year, who come out and they just have this tough time adjusting. Sayin didn't really have that. It wasn't perfect to start out, but it was better than a lot of guys that were seniors. He didn't really have this adjustment period. It was more like, oh, I got to learn how to be this awesome quarterback rather than just learn how to be an average guy, a guy who's not actively hurting your team, because he started out above average and he just kept getting better. His arm is really good. I wouldn't say elite. I think he's got the strongest arm in this class. He can throw it the furthest. There's more power behind it. The velocity isn't the best in this class, but it's close. It's pretty good. Like there's no concerns with his arm, in my opinion. And like you talked about with his accuracy, he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks I've ever seen. As a redshirt freshman, he just doesn't really miss throws. It's unbelievable. I don't really know how he does it. It's like a magnet. It's like the Spurs in Game 7 against the Thunder. They just can't miss. Pisses me off. Um, but he doesn't miss throws, and that is, like you said, an unbelievable baseline for a prospect to have. You're drafting a guy who has a very strong arm and just can't really miss a throw. Sign me up. Like, what? I don't even need to hear the rest of the profile, but the rest of the profile is tremendous. You talked about his progression skills very well, so I think I won't leave it at much there. But for a redshirt freshman, he sees the game better than I think most. I don't think I've seen a redshirt freshman that sees the game better than him often. I don't think we don't see redshirt freshmen who are talked about at this level very often, but that is where he deserves to be talked about, because he's not only seeing these standard coverages. Oh, it's cover 3. I go to my answer, hit the comeback at the seam. It's cover 2. I'm gonna hit the whole shot because I can, and I'm just gonna stun on you. He's seeing cover 4, match quarters. I know what I'm going to do. We've got a switch concept. I'm going right to that switch concept, and it's open. But first, I'm going to look off that safety, right? I'm going to look off this linebacker, make sure he stays in the pocket so I have all this room to throw it up to that wheel route. I just can't really beat him with coverages all that much. He got tricked a couple of times against Indiana. I think there's still work to be done there. But for a redshirt freshman, again, can you tell that he's 20 years old. Have I made that clear? Is he a red? Do you know that he's a redshirt freshman? He's going into his redshirt sophomore year. Uh, it's a fantastic basis to keep improving on. And then I want to talk about probably his biggest weakness, which is also married with one of his biggest strengths, how he faces pressure and how he does
Yep.
in the pocket. So, and I know we both agree on this because we talked about this a very little bit at the end of last episode. Um, One of his biggest strengths to me is his natural pocket presence. Not many guys see pressure and then step up better than he does. Like it's pretty uncanny how well he gets into the rhythm in the pocket and avoids pressure, or not avoids pressure, but prolongs a clean pocket. You know what I mean? He makes sure that this pocket is clean for as long as possible. But the problem with this is his two biggest weaknesses are kind of correlated to each other. He sticks in the pocket for a long time for two reasons, I think. Number one, he just doesn't, like you were talking about, he doesn't have that killer instinct yet where he sees it happening. A lot of the time he sees an open receiver, he sees this anticipation, and you can see he almost wants to throw it, but he just hesitates and he doesn't do it, and he just needs to get better at that. And I think it'll come. I think he hit more of those throws than down the stretch than he did at the beginning of the season, right? But that hesitation cost him. So now this route, this timing concept is completely blown to shit. So you have to get out of the pocket and make something happen. He's just not that big of an athlete. He's not going to be able to make stuff happen outside of the pocket a lot. I think he can make stuff happen outside of structure. Like when the play breaks down, his eyes stay up and he's looking around for somebody to keep moving around, but he's not going to be able to extend the play too far out of the pocket. And when he does, those are when the issues come because he takes so many sacks. Like, let me pull up. Do you have the numbers?
I don't have the numbers and my computer is frozen. All I can do is look at my notes, but
Yeah, let me find
he's
them.
heavy-footed and he just he's conservative. He doesn't want to cough the
Yeah,
football up, so he's just going to tuck it and go down.
exactly. Like he took 18 sacks last year, 16.1% pressure to sack ratio, and it looked worse than that, which is saying a lot, you know? So a lot of the times, if you get a pressure on him, you'll be able to get the sack because he's not going to make that tough throw, that a little bit risky throw. That comes with a 1.4% turnover worthy play rate, which is unbelievable. But again, if that rises to 2.2 next year, but he gets a lot more big time throws out of it and he takes less sacks, I'm kind of okay with that. You know, really, when I watch him, and he's my number one quarterback, I have to be irresponsible. You know this. You know me. I make irresponsible comps. This is what I do.
You do.
Fuck, man. This guy looks like Joe Burrow. I can't help but say it. He looks like a diet Joe Burrow. You, I think he could be Joe Burrow in the league. You know what I mean? Do you see it? The accuracy doesn't miss. Does Joe Burrow ever miss? He never misses. The confidence of which he surveys the field and sees stuff happen. If he learns how to pull the trigger on that, that's Joe Burrow. Taking a bunch of unnecessary sacks and sitting in the pocket for too long, that's Joe Burrow. So I think the fundamentals of his game are all there. The traits are all there. He's a little bit small, but that doesn't really affect how he plays. He seems like he's got a lot of swagger to him. He's not really backing down. When he gets hit, he gets right back up. I think this is a franchise quarterback. I got a very high first or second on him. I have a projected top 5 grade on him. I think if I had to bet on anybody being the number 1 pick next year, I think I'm betting on Sayin.
We view him similarly in a lot of ways. He's so good right now. He's just going to keep getting better, and he's going to be that guy.
Yeah. He's And there is something to be said about, he's playing for Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. That's just a risk you're going to have to take.
Yeah.
He's playing for Ohio State. That's just how it is. And maybe he's not as good in the NFL because he's playing for Ohio State. But again, Joe Burrow played for LSU and he was badass. So I don't think he's a perfect prospect right now. But a lot of the stuff that he's not so great at, he improved on so much over the year. And because he is so young, you just have to believe that he's coming. He's got one of the strongest development tracks. I think he's that guy, and he'll end up being that guy next year as well. Ohio State to the moon.
So we have a consensus number 1, which last year was kind of a summer scouting tradition. Like 2 through 5 can be totally shuffled, but we
And they are.
rally around the same player, and it is Julian Sayin in this case. Do you want to read off your 10 to 1?
Yep. All right. Number 10, I got C.J. Bailey out of NC State. Number 9, I got LaNorris Sellers out of South Carolina. Number 8, I got Trinidad Chambliss out of Mississippi. C.J. Carr out of Notre Dame at number 7. Got Drew Mestemaker out of Oklahoma State via North Texas. At 6, Darian Mensah out of Miami via Duke and Tulane. At 5, Dante Moore at Oregon, UCLA at 4, Arch Manning out of Texas at 3, Jayden Maiava out of USC at 2, and Julian Sayin out of Ohio State at number 1.
All right. I have Gunnar Stockton out of Georgia at 10, Jayden Maiava from USC at 9, Sam Leavitt, LSU at 8, Trinidad Chambliss, Ole Miss at 7, Arch Manning out of Texas at 6, Darian Mensah, Miami at 5, CJ Carr from Notre Dame at 4, Drew Mestemaker at OSU at 3, Dante Moore, Oregon at 2, and like Victor, Julian Sayin at number 1.
Wow. First summer scouting episode completed, and I think that was about as good of an episode as we could have asked for.
I had a fantastic time. It was a
Yeah.
great show. If you like this one, you are going to love our 2027 draft wide receiver breakdown, which should be coming soon. So hit that subscribe button. You aren't going to want to miss it. We're bringing the same content quality that you saw in this episode to wide receivers. I'm sorry, we can't help it. We're obsessive about this stuff. You're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah,
Victor,
we're just too
anything else
good.
before we get out of here?
Now you said it perfectly. It was a joy being back doing summer scouting, doing scouting in general. This was a fantastic episode, and wide receivers is going to be even better.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, stay hard.